And we'll call the meeting to order. Read the agenda for additions or removals.
Just one change. This was for executive session. I have it down for personnel. It's also for contracts as well, just to let you know.
Anything else?
Okay.
Alrighty, public forum. Opportunity for those not on the agenda to share. Oh, no.
Okay.
Anybody? Nope, nobody out there. All right. Department head roundtable. Sharon. I was gonna say, did you leave?
Taxes have come and gone. We have quite a few that are past due, but they're trickling in. Tax sales, the lawyers are preparing the letters to the 8 to 10 homeowners that are way behind, some as much as 6 years, so that's finally moving forward. We're getting new election software in a couple weeks.
How exciting.
Yeah, Chris has already gotten the training. I
I just
have.
spent all day Thursday doing it.
Because he's never done it before, so. And then I have a renewal training Wednesday afternoon for it.
So good, Sharon could call in sick on voting day.
That's right.
So will I.
I don't think Sharon's ever called him.
No. No, yes, she has, but
Yeah.
not on voting day.
Water bills are coming due, they're trickling in, so we're just taking it day by day.
So we should be able to cover that $3 million.
Yes, we can.
Do you have a clue how much delinquencies we have right now?
We're on $500,000. But we're working on them.
Anything
I have
else?
people coming in and asking for agreements.
As long as the agreements get it paid before the next one's due. You know?
Yeah.
That's better than nothing though, so.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
What's that?
I'm all set.
Anything to add, Chris?
Submitted the final ARPA report last week. That's all done, so we shouldn't have to give the money back. Well, let you go there for a minute, but, no, it's all good. I think that's about it. It's been slowly. Back to the world.
All right, and we don't have freedom of this now.
We don't. I'll have to remind you.
Okay, recreation, Meredith.
So last week we worked on Town Green. So repainted the fountain and the white cement around it, and we painted the floor of the bandstand. After we did the aeration, we seeded it, painted it, so it's looking good. Replaced 2 of the swing sets, waiting for the 3rd swing set. And I think we're going to look into completing the fountain. So rumor, I don't know, somebody tipped it over a while ago in the 80s maybe and broke it. The head is upstairs.
Yeah, the kid done got it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so it was,
so-
it's been in the windowsill.
Yeah. We're gonna just do some research and find out what it would be to replace it. It's the goddess of democracy, so it's just kind of interesting that, you know, it'd be kind of cool to actually get a replacement for it in the park. So we don't have to look at it
Just bubbling over.
bubbling over. I mean, it was really pretty. The water came out of the lion's mouth, the water came out of the vase that she was holding. So we're gonna do some research, find out how much it is. Maybe there's a 3D printer that could do the mold, and then, you know, like, so we're just gonna research and find out, and then we'll present it to you. But it would be exciting to get that looking good. Other than that, swim program, almost full. I have 8 AMs that are gonna open up on May 1st. And we're in collaboration with ELP, so they're out of the Mount 8 this year, so we're just down in the pool room and they'll be hopefully transferring the kids back and forth. So we can provide those kiddos an 8 AM swim lesson, which is pretty cool to do that. And then that's pretty much it. It's just been really perks.
And it looks great. Town green looks amazing. We were over there with the kids a couple days ago. Yeah, it looked really good. All the
I
work
just-
that's been done.
You said replace the swing set or just the swings
Just
on the swing?
swings,
Okay.
Yeah, when I did the front porch forum, after I read it, I was like, oh. But yeah, we did 2 pink and we're gonna do a blue, which we just wanted to add some color to it,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Zoning, AZ.
Howdy. So in the zoning world, now that it's warm out, everyone wants to build something. So permit applications have upticked. Got the signed contract with CTI for the GIS mapping, and that project is already underway. Should have a preliminary web viewer available, hopefully end of May, for review. Some FEMA flood map work is going on in the background. I'll be going with the Regional Planning Commission to ask some questions about the maps and make sure that they're looking correct before they go on to preliminary. Working with the Planning Commission to prepare to start looking at the town plan. Yeah, a lot of moving pieces. Things are happening. Update with the GIS. I did talk with Susan at CTI, and after the GIS mapping is complete, we can move into working on a water line and tree GIS mapping project.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And then
That's
you're
my
still
update.
working on the EV charger.
Yes.
Interim bylaw.
Yep, making some revisions in this coming week, and then we'll be putting together a formal report, and hopefully having it ready for y'all by end of May for the process.
Okay,
Great.
any questions for AZ? All right, we will move on. Thank you. Consent agenda. Park Memorial application request from Colleen Booger Wedge, Matt Abraham High School class of 70. Consider rec department request for 2025 Human Power Parade, Saturday, May 10th. Park use application, Daniel Lyons Food Truck. Oh, yeah, Daniel Lyons Food Truck at Bartlett's Falls for June through September. Approval working the right of way and access permit for Daniel Lyons on North Street. That's the Crescent Street side. Authorization of grant application to Vermont Mountain Bike Association for approximately $250 for a vehicle bike rack. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second, it was just a correction, that should say Crescent Street on that.
Well, no,
No,
his
it's on
address is North
North
Street.
Street.
Yeah.
The access is on Crescent Street.
Right. And that's in the application.
Well,
I
I hear what you're saying. because
Yeah,
it says
I said that
working
one.
right away, the access permitted for North Street.
Well, it's
Daniel Lyons.
the title is the working right away, and then it's the person and their address.
Okay,
Just in terms
okay,
of who
I see.
it's for, but you're right, we could make it clear before, but it's in the application.
I
Okay,
have a
as long as
question
that application.
on the Memorial Park application.
Yep.
When I looked at it, I didn't see what they were specifically, where they were putting it or where it was going. Did it?
So Meredith can answer
So
that.
it's gonna be on, so right now what we're doing is we're allowing folks to put a plaque on benches. We
Right.
have a lot of benches. And this is what it looks like
Mhm.
for just having a plaque on there. So that's what we request that the folks use.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and there are no specifics in the application, but I think we're gonna update that, or
Mhm.
Meredith is working on a revision of that to sort of spell it out in the application, and that's how you would get the memorial.
And Meredith, we don't have a park use application, fee.
No, we don't.
We don't.
It's
I
really,
thought we had-
I mean, we could.
No, I thought, for some reason, I thought when we had redid the application, that was in there, or that we had discussed that at one point.
Yeah, it's totally, I mean, honestly, it's really up to you folks. What an idea would be if we purchased all the plates, and then they would have to purchase them from us, so then we know that we have it unified
Mhm.
all on the benches, but we haven't gotten there yet, and these folks would like to put this on there. And then I sent Ian a new draft of the application, and you can find this actually on our website.
Yeah, so that was that, and then Human Power Parade is any change from last year in terms of
No,
the
no.
route?
No change, the
same.
reason why there's a little hop on North Street, is because the group that usually comes, I don't know, they haven't confirmed, it's pretty gigantic and it doesn't fit
Fit
through that little
alleyway.
So usually we have extra volunteers, if they're here this year, that will help bring them around to the town green, once we're on town green, it's chalk time. They're right on the
Okay,
sidewalk.
and that's on the screen
And
now, just so people can see.
And Bruce is all happy with the
I
route.
was just gonna say.
Yes, Bruce, we changed it because at one point it was down Pine Street, and it's
Right.
garbage day, danger, and then it would cross over North Street to BES, danger, so we have simplified it.
I remember that.
Yeah, that looks like a good route.
Yeah, we're finding we have more little legs, so
Yeah.
this route is much nicer than the others.
Daniel, did we put the food truck last year up at Bartlett's?
Yeah,
Who
It
did the
was,
food truck?
I don't know if it was last year, the year before,
Somebody did it.
Bobcat did it, or an
Okay,
offshoot
for
of
sure.
Bobcat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you parking in that first parking lot? Is that the plan?
that's, seems like the most logical spot.
Okay.
Is it that time on the agenda? Good.
Yeah, yeah. You're in our consent agenda.
You're ahead of schedule.
Of course.
Yeah, any questions about that? I don't.
We just, I think in the past, we've required you to kind of police the area for
Garbage.
garbage. when
Yes.
you're- To make sure that your garbage isn't ending up in the.
Mhm.
Yeah, part of that was not just the area that's around you, but also sort of further up the
Yeah.
road, just because there isn't any waste receptacles up there. So
Yeah,
just be aware of that.
I also drove up the road this past week and there doesn't really seem to be a spot where you would want to pull off and have it be safe. You know, because cars, it's
Yeah.
a pretty small, like slim margin between like where people park and the travel part of the road.
Right,
But in that first pull off, I don't know if you guys can visualize where that plaque
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
on the rock. Just if you're looking at it, looking up the road, just to the left of that.
yeah, and then there's plenty of parking around there.
And I think
My
that's
only
where the,
concern would be they have to cross to go over there, but they have to cross park over there anyway. If you're
Not the
saying
first
you go
part.
up to Lincoln, you're gonna pull over to the left.
no,
Right.
Right.
Oh, right.
Right.
Do you know where the?
The first
plaque
one.
is?
Right, I know where the plaque is.
Right there.
that first pull off,
Anything
right?
beyond that too.
To the left.
Just right in that
When it's
same.
at the left, that's where I got the
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
I do listen. Sorry.
It's okay. We'll forgive you this time. This is your only forgiveness.
Yeah, but I mean, there are two parking areas.
Yeah.
over
There
there,
is.
So, yeah,
And my thought was to do it like if the weather was good
Do
for a
we
couple
require
hours.
insurance?
I mean,
do we
there's no
require
harm in like,
insurance?
putting
So,
down
I'm sure he has
some
that.
dates, but then not making it some of them. Like I did this winter.
It was like, if it's like Sunday morning months, so you wouldn't go up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're planning to be there both Saturday and Sunday, right?
Saturday or Sunday. I mean,
You're
I'll-
not gonna do both days.
No, I'll
Okay.
probably do it like maybe 5 to 10 times throughout the summer.
Mhm.
Maybe like even less than 10.
Mhm.
Unless it's really like fun and good, then. I think
Then you
maybe
Good
we'll-
would be.
I was just gonna ask, so I think we also will want insurance. I mean, I assume you're gonna have insurance coverage.
Yep.
You need it, I mean,
No, I have it. I submitted it already for the last permit that I applied for. Do I need to submit another COI?
Well, cause I think you're at a different location,
Right.
so.
That works.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that'd be it.
It held the Holly.
Did it
It's no, it's in
specify?
the town of Bristol was the holder of the certificate.
But they didn't name a location because they didn't, then that's.
It should be fine, it's also
Oh.
unexpired.
Yeah, we can check
Let's,
that.
we'll follow up with that.
Okay.
I have a copy of that in my email too. I'll check it out.
Okay.
What do you think about me, like if I was gonna be there and like from 11 to 1, something like that, like parking there at 9?
I was gonna say you better park there before 11, but you won't get in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's all wild up there and people park all over the place. Like,
Right.
is there any concern about me taking up 2 spots right there?
No, I mean, I think you're following the procedure of what you would do to park at that space to be able to do what you want to do. So you're doing everything correctly.
Cool.
People park all
And
over the
before,
place.
I think before it was a truck and a trailer, so you're just a truck, so they took
Yeah.
2 spots without having
Yeah.
a place to serve.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess, you're gonna get a lot of people there, so I think that should be pretty successful. I think the Bobcat or their offshoot food truck, I think, did pretty well.
Yep.
And I think you're doing it more times, so
Right.
hopefully you'll be able to catch a lot of that
Yeah.
traffic there. That's great.
And what I requested that just an update, because I put in every Saturday and Sunday on your application. I would just like to, because that becomes public.
Yep.
So I don't want people looking on the website and be like, oh yeah, food trucks at Bartlett's.
Yeah.
And you're not there, so.
I'm impressed how many people read the select board minutes. I'm finding out. Can I, if you issue that permit, can I always modify it in like July?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be the same permit number, and we'll just
Okay,
adapt it.
great, perfect.
While we have you here, we're just approving the right of way. Now, I'm not sure, we talked about this before, but do they come to the select board? I don't remember us approving right of ways.
No, but for the access side.
Access.
Oh, the access side. Okay, that's what it was. All right, thank you. So yeah, we've got that in there as well. Obviously, we previously discussed that at the last meeting. And we have all the details and AZ got that updated. So we're just approving that as well. And then Meredith, you're back with a grant for
that for the
your
van?
bike
That's
rack.
for the van, yeah.
And looks
Those,
like,
those racks are about $350, so it'll be nice to add it into it.
thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Dan.
So you've got no match needed and you've got 250. Is that the max that you can go for that grant? And then you're
With that
using your,
level, yeah.
okay, and then you're using your own funds. Okay, for the rest. All righty.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Regular business. Interview.
Thanks, Eric.
Consideration for Conservation Commission candidate,
Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
and I'm gonna butcher the name, so I'm not even gonna try.
Kieran Mulvaney.
There.
Kieran.
Good night.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, coming up here. So we have, there are currently 2 vacant seats on the Conservation Commission. One runs till March 2027 and the other runs until 2029. Both Karen and Nikki have attended the last Conservation Commission meeting and were
And they're coming back.
very enthusiastically greeted by all there. I've heard good reports. So they sent in applications and they're here for an interview.
So the question is always why?
I suddenly realized I've been living here 10 years and time I gave something back, basically, as simple as that.
Time flies, huh?
Time does fly, actually. I don't think I've actually lived anywhere 10 years since I left home.
Oh, now he's gonna get involved, he's gonna leave.
Exactly.
Oh, God. I wasn't planning to until I saw the conservation. Commission, right, and then I was gone. But conservation is my background. That's what I spent my life doing, so it seemed like an appropriate thing to try and do.
Awesome.
That's good.
We like people who volunteer.
Right.
Yes.
We do.
Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Kieran. Do you want to do 1 year or would you rather do 3?
I'll do the short one.
Okay.
Because I'll be leaving and, right.
That's
sure.
it.
Is that-
No, no.
Well, unless you don't want to do the
Well, we could share it.
We can, there you go. We can, we'll flip the coin
Right in
for
the
it.
middle.
There you go.
Okay, I'll fill into the vacancy that runs through March 2027.
Second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Welcome aboard.
Very easy. Rough interviews.
No, no, we're tough, aren't we?
You were in the hot seat.
Okay, excellent. Hi, Nikki.
Hi,
Okay, same questions.
so I've been wanting to get into conservation for years. I'm big into like nature conservation stuff. I was living in Salisbury before this and I went to some of the events that they had. One that talked about like mosquitoes or forest pest insects and I don't know, I'd like to do things like that here and help with the different events. I'm excited to help for Green Up Day with the table. And it'll be a good way to like meet more people in the community.
Could figure out a way to prevent people from dumping their tires on the sides of the road. On the pull-offs right before Green Up Day.
If you can figure that out. then you'd be,
No, we need,
Well
They're
received.
Growing out here.
well, the one up by my house. One morning went by, it was clean, I came back 2 hours later, there was 5 tires there. I was like, really, you guys?
They need to go back to doing like 1 free tire day a year. And literally, that made a huge difference. You know, they don't do it.
It's like, disrespectful. Anyway,
That would be something that we would have to sponsor because there's no way solid waste is gonna do that.
no, no.
But it's always an option, I guess.
Yeah.
Something you could push. Be your first agenda item.
All the rest of us have to pay. to
I
get
guess I
the
didn't
tires.
ask.
I know.
I didn't ask you, but you guys do know this is a volunteer position. It's not paid. Okay. Okay.
So I'm already in there.
And I'll make a motion, we appoint Nikki to the vacant seat that runs through 2029.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki.
Not here.
And Alan is probably not gonna be here until around.
Yeah, my timing was way off. I definitely.
I was gonna
made a
say,
mistake.
yeah,
I
we're
may have
right on
mistaken
here.
one of my
We may
times,
be
but
done.
now we're like so far ahead. I'm like, what's going on?
Well, I think you thought the department head roundtable would take longer than.
No, I just- 'cause I was
5
like,
minutes.
But I don't want to like cut people off. All right, so
Yeah.
maybe we can circle back around.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
circle back.
Yeah.
around it. I talked to him today and he said
Check with
we'd
Sharon.
see him
Okay,
around 8.
excellent.
So,
So you guys- Well, have we
because I
got the
told him
grant
he was
writer
gonna be in the
yet?
hot
We'll
seat.
probably have
Yeah,
that.
they're out front.
There.
Oh,
Great.
sweet, okay, I'll grab some.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you all for coming. So we can move
Thank
Fred
you.
is here. He's on
Yeah, they're
to.
out front
Yep.
on the big double doors.
Bristol Fire Department policy update for cadet program. Chief Brett
Night.
LaRose.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
He's sicker than a dog.
Apologies, I'm
And he's
not
still
well,
attending.
so I'm not coming on video. A little early here. I'm waiting for Mandy to come on. I know she's the next agenda item, but these two.
Yeah, sorry, we're way ahead of the schedule. Sorry about that.
But anyway, we can just
We
talk.
can't talk about this.
So, what was then what is now the cadet program for the Bristol Fire Department, which, by the way, we haven't had a cadet since prior to the pandemic. The age was 15 years old. And then when you all adopted some policies for the fire department in 2017, I suggested 16, only because I'm thinking of driving. But after having a conversation with Mandy Parks recently about the early learning program and some opportunities that may be on the horizon for not just the fire department, but for other town organizations, wanted to ask if the board would consider lowering that age limit to 15, which would align with what they're doing at the early learning program. They got a significant grant. Don't quote me on this. I think it was a couple $2 million. And obviously Mandy's going to speak about this a little bit more, but essentially I'm proposing that we lower the age of the cadet program to 15 and also change the name of the the cadet to junior firefighter to align with the National Volunteer Fire Council's junior firefighter program and all the materials they provide. So pending any questions from you all, that's essentially what I'm asking this evening, is essentially to, one, lower the age to 15, and two, I want
This
to
one?
change to junior firefighter.
Yeah, so that is the policies from the current policy that we have, which was from, let's see, when is that here? It's 2017 was the last time, or this was adopted in January 2nd, 2017. That's actually the last policy in the document. So it's just changing the language a little bit, as you can see here from the.
So you're striking out all of the requirements?
The
Is that
eligibility,
right?
eligibility and requirements are
Right.
here,
Right,
but it's
but I'm
just,
talking about the entrance requirements, that's all gone away.
yes.
Okay.
Do you have any prospective candidates?
One
Oh, good.
that I know of, but if you all, after you hear what Mandy has to say and are in support of that endeavor, that potentially could open up the door. Because it's going to involve money, not town's money. So, but again, I can't speak to it. I'm jumping on right now. So I'll let her do that.
Okay, Brett, I see it at the bottom there. Could you scroll a little bit? Where it said we had a maximum of 5.
Yep.
Are we going to have a maximum or not? What if we get,
No, just treating it just like the firefighter. Well, there's no maximum on the firefighters either. Eventually, well, I don't think it'll ever be a problem, but you all will have to determine if we get to that point where it's just like, oh, it costs too much to have 36 or 40 firefighters on a roster. Then that's just a decision we'll have to make together. We'll make a recommendation and say, well, we got to cap it at this because it costs X amount of dollars to outfit the
well, I was
fire.
thinking more the cap of the junior firefighters. If you think there should be for management to try to manage that many, let's say you get 10.
It's not a problem
that
until it
good?
becomes a problem.
Okay.
That's a hell of an answer. I like that.
That's a political answer.
Not a problem until it becomes a problem?
Yeah.
It's like-
Okay.
Well, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the changes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
All right.
We are.
So Mandy's here.
Mandy's here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
There she is. And I'll share this. Well, Mandy can probably detail. So do you want to read the next agenda item since we went through?
Bristol Fire Department ELP partnership request from Brett LaRose.
There we go.
Amazing.
So, Mandy,
heard
I'm
you
not
guys-
sure when you jumped on, but I'm going to defer to her. So please, Mandy, take it away.
The voice from beyond. You're blowing through the agenda.
Yes,
Right?
they are.
Yes.
We are.
Yes. Thank you for joining us much earlier than we predicted.
No,
That
that's
interim administrator, he just didn't calculate his time well.
I'm happy because that means
Yeah.
we get to leave earlier. I was looking at 10
Maybe.
something and I'm
Yeah,
going.
don't
"Oh."
jinx us.
Don't
Well-
ruin
All
it,
right.
Michelle.
So give us a little bit of detail about, we're all familiar with the ELP, but maybe we need a little refresher. And then obviously how this would dovetail in with the Bristol Fire Department.
Yeah, and maybe even broader too. I think
Yeah.
Brett and I have talked about some of these aspects in the community for a little bit, but in review, the Expanded Learning Program is a MAUSD district program. We serve K through 8th graders. We do after school, summer and vacation camp. And we're kind of charged in the district to look at some of our gaps in learning, our gaps in social emotional learning, but also we address science and the fact that we're performing low in comparison to the state, and math and English. So as part of our work and as part of our funding under the Agency of Education, we look to provide opportunities that are not only providing that childcare, but providing learning opportunities after school. Summer and vacation. And hot off the press, we just received notice that we were rewarded 2 highly competitive grants here in the state. And one will fund our K through 8th grade program for another 5 years, like 25%. We have lots of different funding streams. But we received an additional grant through the Agency of Ed as part of the cannabis tax money, actually, is going to after school. And again, a really competitive grant that will fund our 9th through 12th grade here at the district. So moving forward, April 1st, we were notified that will be a K through 12th grade program. And it's, $2.4 million over the next 3 to 5 years. So part of the piece.
That's incredible. Congratulations on
Yeah.
that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So part of the work that Brett and I have been kicking around for a while as multi-generational children of this community is the fact that so much of the civic duty that in the work that's being done in this community is being done by an aging population. So my mom has brought that up a lot, that she is like the last of her kind among several other people who are volunteering and doing this work. So a piece that Brett and I talked about with the fire department in particular was looking at developing internships for 9th through 12th graders during the school year that could potentially earn school credit through Maureen and their workforce program, and specifically around the junior cadet program, which I know, Brett, you just talked about. So providing opportunities, these are paid internships for 9th through 12th graders, and there could be many, many students involved in this. It would happen after school, summer vacation, in which we would provide oversight, leadership. Specifically, Brett and I were talking about individuals already volunteering in the fire department who have worked for ELP in the school district, who would be great coordinators and supervisors. But we kind of also talked about that, maybe the opportunity doesn't need to just be siloed for the fire department. We know like Reg Wedge is doing a lot of the historics, or not Reg Wedge, Reg Dearborn is doing a lot of the Historic Society work on his own. We could have students in there archiving. We know like 4th of July Planning Committee. Anyway, you all know the broader scope, but it looks like a really important opportunity. And one thing that we're always working on is expanding students' sense of belonging. And shockingly, our students are not scoring high on the National Youth Risk Survey for sense of belonging, which is a little shocking in a rural community. And if we can develop that sense of belonging, we're more likely to retain those students after high school. We see academic gains, and we also see that those students who feel an increased sense of belonging in their community are less likely to participate in risky behavior. So it's really good work. And that's Brett and I have been checking in about it and thinking about it out loud.
And I haven't had an opportunity. I mean, we were just literally having this conversation last week. So I haven't had an opportunity just to speak to the fire department about this and these potential opportunities, because obviously on our end, it would take a couple of people to, raise their hand and want to volunteer to give up their time. But Mandy, please correct me if I'm wrong here. Those individuals would be compensated.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
They would be paid well to do that work.
Yeah. So it's potentially a great opportunity for the youth of the community, but also for, the fire department and anybody who wants to get involved.
Yeah, and I looked, the list that you sent, Brett, also has the town office as well. There was one which was provide administrative support, assist with document organization, help manage local communications. So I don't know if we want to look at that as well as a potential source of someone coming here to be able to learn. It'd be nice to have someone directly connected and learning about local government, which I think that's not a lot of people are doing that. And I'd also say there's also, I would suggest your list is Bristol Core, which is Bristol's downtown group. I think that would be a really interesting opportunity for students to sort of look at that and see that the work that that organization does, along with all the others on your list.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks very exciting.
It's really exciting.
Okay.
I guess I'll have a question, and maybe this is on the minds of some of the board members too, Mandy. Would these students, would they be covered under that program's liability?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a district program, we carry insurance wherever we go. So okay. It's MAUSD insurance for our students. That's a great question.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brett, I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe back to Mandy's question on the insurances. So they would kind of be like when we had a cadet program, they would come and do how do we put it, non-functional fire stuff, like obviously they can't go into a building, they can't do that type of stuff, can't ride
It
the
would be,
truck.
it would be just like before, and as noted in the policy, you know, we're bound to
It's so
follow
long since we had one, I forgot.
child labor laws. So yes, we certainly put young people, you know, depending on their age, because whether they're 15, 16, or 17, they're allowed to do different things. You know, but like as one example, you know, for any of those categories, one thing they cannot do is stand in a roadway. And that makes sense. So, you know, they wouldn't be directing traffic, which we do a lot of, or spend time on the road, which we do a lot of.
So what exactly are you looking from us? Just a blessing to be able to move forward?
I mean, from my perspective, I mean, you've already blessed what I was looking for this evening, but you know, what Mandy is brought forward in this opportunity, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, something we potentially could capitalize on. You know, I try to be realistic about this stuff. Am I going to get inundated with young people who want to, or going to all of a sudden express interest in the fire department? Who knows? But if we don't go out there and take a chance, you know, how will we ever know? And I think this is an amazing opportunity. And if a little financial incentive always goes a long way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep, sure does.
And there's some talk of bringing the essentials class back to school as well.
Really?
In some,
that would be
some
great.
manner. I don't know if it's here or if it's vocational center or what, but I mean,
we are,
it's certainly
Bristol is, we are no different than any other small town fire department across this country. You know, we are an aging department. You know, I think I have 2 firefighters in their 20s, you know, and everybody else is well on in their years.
Good way to put it.
You're being very nice.
That's a very, very polite way of putting that.
I would have just said older, but I like
Older than 20, yeah.
older than 20. I can live with older than 20.
So yeah, just looking for
I think-
your approval, your blessing on, you know, that you think this is a good idea for both the town and for the early learning program.
Well, I know, you know, just looking back, when they did have the essentials in school and we had cadets, they went through that class and we gained good firefighters out of that course. And a lot of them haven't left the fire service, even though they've left Bristol. So I think in my eyes, it's a good way to keep kids involved in their community.
Mm-hmm.
It also exposes them to stuff they wouldn't normally be exposed
Yeah.
to, or wouldn't get a chance to be exposed to.
Absolutely. And whether it's the fire department or the clerical work at the town offices, or who knows, maybe even Eric needs some help out on the road crew. But
It's not in the road.
I think it's all, whenever you can expose young people to new opportunities. Otherwise, they only know what they know. So.
Nice job, great job.
Well, I would like to say thanks to Mandy for
Yeah.
coming forward with this idea. So I think it's going to be a wonderful partnership. So thank you, Mandy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited.
Congrats.
We want a motion to bless this.
Yes, please.
I don't know exactly how
How
to
do you
word
want
it.
me to say that?
That's why I was asking what
I guess,
are you looking for from us? I mean, what do you need in order to make this move forward?
Well, this is great. The baseline partnership with the fire department is really vital. I think opportunities for us to maybe just brainstorm and creative thinking that you all have. You know, these are the needs. These are areas that students would benefit and we would benefit. I mean, there needs to be reciprocity on both sides of that. So, I mean, we can take this as far as anyone wants to go.
A motion for a partnership between the town and ELP?
There you go. Yes.
So move.
A second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to form a partnership between the town of Bristol and the ELP program at Mount Abe. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those.
I guess I do have one to ask a question, Peter. So even though Bristol Rescue is not part of the town of Bristol because they're a private entity, that you could talk with them.
Oh, yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, I don't
okay.
think this just limits it to the town.
Okay, no, we just at the town, okay.
Yeah, anything and everything that we can get the kids involved with. And obviously, like Brett was saying, we have labor laws, we know all those pieces. And we would just build those partnership languages together. Like this would make sense, this would work for your program, this would benefit the students, and we can do that with each organization.
Mandy, I know one of the big things when we had the cadet program was Brett was always very adamant with the cadets that your schooling comes first. You don't leave when, you hear the fire trucks going off in the middle of the day, you don't leave school. And I think that would be something that we'd still very much want to, their education comes first before.
That's actually in line with some of the labor laws. They're not allowed to leave school for.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, certainly, what you remember from that program is certainly what, will continue. And I guess one thing I should put out there, I can see us having two types of cadets, juniors, because you're going to have those through the early learning program, but we may have others who come in through the traditional route. They're not affiliated with the early learning program. So those cadets, juniors, I get used to saying that, would, fall under the town's insurance like they did previously. Make sense? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm sorry. I have a temperature of 103 right now. My wife just took it before this meeting, so.
Well, you go to,
Then
Just
get off
get up.
this meeting, Brett.
yeah, go to bed.
All right, let's go.
All right,
Okay.
so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you. Hope you feel better,
Thank you so
Brett.
much. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thanks.
We
Jill's
can
here,
do the
so-
minutes.
Well, you can do Jill's here.
But if we get, is that gonna be,
That's gonna be lengthy.
it's gonna be more than 15 minutes.
We get it
I
now.
mean,
We could also, we have,
Okay, well, let's do the minutes. I make a motion, we approve all the minutes with my changes.
Second, I didn't even know the changes, but second.
I did read, there was one thing I picked up right off the bat. What was it?
And you didn't send Ian an email with it, did you?
No, but I'm sure somebody else got it. It was either the date or something.
Oh,
It
I
was
didn't
something
catch
minor.
dates.
It was right
I
in
get
the
so
first two
confused with
lines.
that Base camp thing, I get,
Who said,
like
did
the
we?
base camp. Did we like it? Don't we like?
Did we get a
it?
second on
I second.
that? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
All
Hi,
right,
are we
Opposed?
about done now? Are we caught
Motion.
Getting close.
Yeah.
Don't worry, there's more to come.
up? Well, I saw 2022, I'm like,
Oh,
I am
we're
not
going
gonna-
way back
I'm
in
like, I'm
time.
not gonna remember what happened in
All right, we'll
2022.
That's good.
do,
That's the
the warrant.
Warrant
wanna make a motion on
is,
that one, Michelle?
no, the warrant is $2,984,214.73, and that includes the tax bill for the school.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Of 2.92.
Please highlight that.
And any liquor licenses or?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
We have a liquor license, first class request from Mini Factory. They did not at this time apply for the outside consumption, but
That's the
Last
cafe,
year-
right? That's the
Correct.
cafe.
yeah.
That's where the Bristol Bakery.
And we
goes.
had conditions last time for them to be outside, which I think we should, even though they didn't apply for the outside consumption one, they also put it on the first class one when I put it out last year.
Okay.
Liquor control did, so it's just making sure they're not hogging the sidewalk and leave space for people to walk by.
think
Stay
that
in
was-
your lane.
I think
They
that
have plenty of
would be
space.
the maximum you can have is half of the cemented sidewalk, not with the brick, not from the curb to the wall.
Well, but, I mean, if you look at the sidewalk, it works. I mean,
There's
when I
two-
talked to
two-
her last year, when she had the
there's two.
barricades out, there's two sets of sidewalk.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
two
you
panels.
just get one of them.
Line, that's,
It's a
You get
panel.
one of them.
yeah.
yeah, one
And we
panel
have-
deep.
Yeah, and we also make sure that, she brings all the chairs and stuff inside, so that in the wintertime, they're not in the way when we're
Yeah.
plowing.
Okay.
As of November 1st.
Yeah, we only allow them to be on the sidewalk between May and October.
Okay. And that's November 1st.
And is that
Is
the
that the
only
only
one?
one?
It's the only one I have.
All right.
No tobacco.
We get a
No
motion for that?
tobacco.
Sure, I'll make a motion to
Second.
approve. Okay, I want to get it out of my
Yeah, I
mouth.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I
Motion
haven't heard
carried.
Ian say, oh, yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Alan, come on up.
Okay.
We are way ahead of schedule. We've got half the agenda done beyond you.
We've been waiting for you to show up, then we're going home.
Okay.
Yeah, we-
Interview consideration for Development Review Board candidate Alan Bilson to fill a vacant seat that runs through March of 2028.
I know you attended the meeting,
I
or
did.
meetings, maybe more than one. Yeah.
I went to one about a year ago and then,
You must have gone to one recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Last week.
because Kevin told me you were there.
last week,
Yeah.
week before,
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Well, why do you wanna?
And you aren't
I guess
running the
why do
other
you
way.
wanna- You've gone to a meeting, why do you wanna put yourself through that?
Yeah, because I have the
Perfect.
time, I have the time now.
Okay,
And, I haven't done any volunteer work for the town in a number of years.
okay,
And, yeah, I guess it's time.
make a motion.
already
Somebody-
answered all these questions for me earlier.
Somebody's gotta-
And
somebody's gotta do it.
you talked to AZ, had a discussion with them, I know. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we go.
And they approved, they thought you would make a good candidate, so.
Yeah, I'll give you a, make a motion that have Alan fill it till March of 2028.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I told you. it was gonna
Thank
be
you.
hard.
Thank you.
I warned you.
Well, welcome aboard, and if you went to 2 meetings, and you aren't running away from it, I guess you're doing okay.
I've got tougher jobs.
I'm sure.
Thank you. That's it?
That's it.
Yeah.
You're on.
All right, go home.
Go home. Enjoy the night.
Yeah.
All right. Water Sewer Commission preparations for upcoming annual water and sewer annual meeting, including budget preparation, ordinance revision, capital improvement plan updates, and schedule.
Okay. What would you like to look at first?
Well, I want to ask Jill a question.
But it doesn't say we can ask questions.
I
here.
can.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Actually, we gotta get a motion.
Jill, can you hear us?
I don't need a motion.
Yes, I can. I just can't get my laptop to log in, so I'm on my phone this time.
Now, my question is, I talked to Kevin and he thought that, because I asked Ian this, I was like, is the water ordinance is ready to go for us to review and approve? And Kevin said he thought he had done all his stuff and it was in yours and Steve's hand. But he said, if you get me the current version, I can tell you whether my stuff is in your.
No, to be honest, it was in Valerie's hands for just kind of like final cleanup. And now, of course, it's in Ian's hands for final cleanup. So that's where I knew it to be.
Okay, but it's good to go, right? You guys have done everything, made all the changes. Kevin's done his stuff, so.
I mean, I can't make an assumption that all the edits that we went through on all those meetings over and over, that they were finalized by Valerie, because I never saw the final version.
Oh, bummer.
That's okay. So what we can do is after tonight's meeting, I'll do some cleanup from the discussion that we had, and I'll send Steve and Jill the current copy that we're working on, and I'll get rid of a lot of the comments that we got in there. Each time we talk about this, and we've talked about this a lot, I did a document that sort of detailed over the last year how long we talked about it. We keep adding things or revising things or moving things to an appendix. We keep sort of discovering stuff as we go. So it's taken a bit of time, but we'll clean it up after tonight's meeting and we'll send it out. And then that should hopefully be the last revision of it, and we can put it, approve
We
it.
can pass it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you want to talk about that one first?
No, I mean, if you're gonna do that, there's
Okay.
nothing really to talk
Well,
about until we get it
let's
finalized. and-
just share it for a sec,
Mhm.
just so everybody can familiarize themselves with it.
It's been 6 months or years since I've seen it.
It's been a while. So I did create a document, which was in the bunch of documents that I sent, which was sort of like the timeline and it was taken from all the minutes, meeting minutes, just to sort of show us where we were at. So looking through, and I had to sort of re-familiarize myself as well. We added in appendixes for easement and quitclaim. We have that form. We've got the new owner form, which is sort of transfer. That was a new one.
Right.
And then we have sort of appendix F for all the miscellaneous forms.
The easement got in there, right? Did that?
Correct,
draft
it's in there.
easement?
So, but I just need you to look at
Yep.
it to see
Mhm.
that it's correct.
Right,
There is
right.
language in there, but it might need to be removed because you would put your own language in there.
Mhm.
I didn't know if it was used in an example.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say this is an example and leave
Right.
that, all that
Okay.
language in there.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
didn't
mean
know
it's
how
gonna
much
be
needed to be
exact.
in
Yeah,
there.
no, that's fine.
So, not a huge amount of changes. We were doing things like just simple stuff like the name of the water system, updating things through that. And various things here. I mean, this is the document that I sent out has all these
Mhm.
changes in and the highlights. But it's pretty well there. It was just sort of the appendix pieces. So we've got, this was one of the questions in terms of Kevin. But I think he's looked at this, and I looked back at the changes that he submitted a number of months ago, and those are all in there, the language that he had in the document that he submitted. And that's in here.
It may make sense to point that out to him again and say,
Yes.
is this okay?
Yeah.
Because he may have missed it.
No, I
you
know.
when he
No,
was
it's
doing
because
whatever he was doing,
we've
yeah.
done a lot of revisions and a lot of
Right.
changes, and it is a difficult thing to keep track of everything that we talk about at the meeting. This one, so originally it was sort of, we were talking about creating a new application, but then we were going to put it into the actual application itself, and that was
Yeah.
done. This was the transfer of water service. So we added this in here, and then
The new
there's an appendix
service
E,
one.
which and I'll show that
Mhm.
in a bit. The construction specifications, see appendix C has all the details and the latest ones from. Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay, I wasn't sure if you saw it on here.
Jill was out here. She's back. Hang on, let me make sure she's the co-host. Oh no, she's the co-host. Okay. So that we broke that out, and we have the latest updates from Steve for those specifications.
Are those the pictures?
Correct.
The different pictures,
yeah. So this was, I think, this was in
There's
the
a-
easement
yeah.
easement document. We have that language. And this will need quite a little tied up in terms of the formatting. This was for the source document, put a link in this in appendix E. Okay, I'll have to double check with that. Let's see. Did we ever
Yeah,
do
we
this?
did that.
We did
I
that.
think we said they had a year or 2 years. I
Oh,
can't remember
yes,
what it was.
okay, which was here. Yeah,
Yeah.
add the section to permitting section, okay. Then we have just gotta check these. I mean, as you can see, it's a lengthy document.
We're very wordy.
Well, but I mean, it's hasn't been updated in a while, so it's, The private hydrants, I couldn't find anything in his document about that. Maybe I need to look again.
Or ask him, because maybe he
yeah.
didn't get in there.
Okay.
Where would there be private hydrants?
The one on
Francis Drive.
Francis Drive.
Oh, that's gonna be ours now.
Yeah.
Who says?
The owner.
Oh, well, the owner could say all he
One of the
wants,
three
but
owners, though. One of the three owners.
I don't think it's 3 owners. I think it was just one.
Just him, yeah.
Yeah, I think he
Just
paid to put
Kevin.
it all in.
It's all.
Not what read the document from '84. Full World, Tom Busco.
You're talking
owned
to
it.
Kevin LaRose?
Yeah. Kevin says his deed says he owns it.
Right.
On his land. The hydrant's on his land.
But that's the end of the line. From there, it's services. He owns the main.
Yeah, he told me he wants to give it.
And he wants it, he wants gone. He doesn't want to own it.
Good.
Solve that problem.
Yeah.
Done.
His
Okay.
deed says he owns the main.
Okay. And we want, and is he?
We
he's
should
okay
make
with
sure that
giving
we
us
should
some in-
confirm
Yeah.
with that before we start taking over stuff. But let's make sure he
Yeah.
does over.
And that's part of this
Yeah.
whole bigger discussion too. So the hydrants, what's this one here?
It's kind of like the school.
So the only
street
other
thing.
hydrant that's on private property would be the one at Lathrop's Mill.
Right.
Is that private?
Well, the meter is up.
That's the, isn't that the meter
there's
pit they
one
had a
in the
problem
mill.
with?
They used to use it, they used to use the water off of the hydrant, so we put the meter is back out on the road, there's a meter
Right.
pit.
But the hydrant's on the property, in the
Yeah.
middle of the
Correct.
property.
And it's metered.
Yeah.
So I would say that would lead me to believe that is
It's
private.
Yeah.
And I think that was one we should have a discussion with to see if the hydrant, if they still want a hydrant there, or,
Right.
I mean, I think
I can't
You were-
imagine they
you
want to
were-
give it up.
it depends on whether they want it or not. It makes a difference in how the design is when we do that, correct, Steve?
Is Steve on?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and Peter, I think the other thing to add to that is it's in the town's asset inventory. I didn't put that together. I don't know who put that together, but it's in the town's asset inventory as the town owning that up to the hydrant. That doesn't mean anything because listen, anyway, legally, that's what you guys believe you want to do. That's a whole nother wrinkle in this is all I'm trying to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there may be some research that has to be done to figure out.
Well, I
Who
know
really owns
the
that one, too?
reason it's metered in the street is because they were using the hydrant for something.
I think wetting logs. in there.
Wetting the
Yeah.
logs down, yeah.
Jill, do you know how it became part of the inventory? Do you have a history of that? I think we talked about this before.
We received the inventory from, at the time of adopting operating of the water system through Green Mountain Engineering through the asset management plan that they did. So in the
Okay.
asset management plan, as you've seen, there's all the spreadsheets listing out all of the lines.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. So it's like,
So
have a
it's very possible that we own it and we only metered it because they were using it.
it's quite possible that that to be the truth, because basically when you have a water main, you don't want to not have a way to bleed air out of the end of the line. So to have a water line that has no hydrant at the end of it, especially a main, is a very bad practice in a water system. So if you shut that water line down, you don't have a way to get pressure off of it, and you don't have a way to get air out of it if you're trying to turn it off and turn it back on for some type of like major repair. So I think it's in the interest of the water system to continue to have a hydrant on that end of that line, so long as that line is going to continue to extend to that point.
And you need a flushing location.
We probably got so many holes in it down that line, it's probably gonna leak out the air anyway.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure on South Street. That's our highest pressure zone.
Okay,
I
so.
would have thought Main Street was.
No, we got like 140 something on.
Another
So
7,500 feet lower.
And we're talking Lathrop's Mill, we're talking the one just down over there.
All right, so you had a question here in terms of water supplied for fire protection purposes. This,
Oh, I think we had a long discussion about sprinkler systems.
I know. But we talk about here, I made a note. I think this is maybe, yeah, link to fees document, create a fine amount. You have that in there, I'll have to take a look.
No, so I'm just trying to figure out where my comment was. It's up above, right, above town responsibilities, that last paragraph, above that, no,
Yeah.
above that.
It's above, hang on.
Right, the next one up, just
Oh, sorry.
keep going.
I know. There it is.
Okay,
I
okay,
think back to the foot page. Yeah, so it was this. When water supplied for
That's-
fire protection purposes found to be used for other than fire protection purposes, the water will be shut off by the town until the offenders give reasonable assurance. That the offense is
How
not-
about the offenders pay the fine?
Yeah, that reading and what I'm writing, that is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this. I know we were talking about billing when they have a fire and using the water sprinklers, and we said, no, we don't usually
Yeah,
do
that
that, that
was-
doesn't happen.
Yeah,
so,
sprinkler
but this
system
was something
standby
different.
water fee,
Mhm.
and we have it as pending. Look for examples in Middlebury. Okay.
Middlebury doesn't charge a water fee for our sprinkler system.
Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
the Jens doesn't either.
Right.
We have it in both and we don't get charged. The meter's not on that side of it.
Okay. Okay, let's see what else. Traveling down.
Yeah, I would think that would be a slippery slope, because then if you,
Bob Patterson told me, says you can't charge.
like the other day, we,
Okay, so
instead
that's all
of
that.
drafting from the river, we took water out of the water system for a fire.
Right.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking that we would charge. I wonder, I asked that question because I wasn't sure if they ever got charged, for the water. I mean, if they're metered, if it was metered, but they're on a separate, it's on a separate line
The
than they're
meter,
metered.
no, the meter is usually after the
After the-
hydrant connection, or the sprinkler connection.
Yeah,
All
he's
right, so
right.
then our
He's
different
right.
appendixes, yeah, okay.
The only one that I could, does the high school have a fire suppression system? Because they're the only ones I could think of where,
No, they don't have a
Okay.
sprinkler system.
Really?
okay, then I
But they
can't
got
think of a single
Their
one.
pool is filled with a meter though.
Yeah, it's a,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a
Their water
3 inch
system.
going in. Yeah, it's a 3 to 2 there. Okay.
All the water that goes in there is metered.
Right, every bit of water goes in the pools.
And they run it every other day. They put water in there every other day, just milk.
Wow.
And sometimes I forget to shut it off, so when you go in there, the water's like, you feel like you're out in the ocean.
And they drain it, every
One of those
summer.
infinity pools. Wow. This is the appendix D. This is our template for water lines outside the public
Yep.
road, by the way. So is this okay as it
Yep.
is? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a
'Cause it
sample,
would be
because
this
things
language
may,
here, is
yeah, that could,
correct?
that
Okay,
would, could change,
right,
right,
but that's the example. Okay.
depending on, where the water line is and what it is.
Okay, and then we have this is the new owner form, which is just based on
Middlebury's.
yeah, and it's just, as you see, it's very simple.
And it would just be very helpful for
Yeah,
Sharon if she got the right information and not the
Well,
guess.
Like, can they call in and we can write the information down?
Sure.
Or-
Sure. I mean, I just know that in Middlebury, when you ask for a closeout water read, they send it right to me and say, give this to the seller or the buyer to fill out and drop off.
okay, that was that, and then we've got where are our fees? Yeah, and the fees are the updated ones. We had the two versions that were before December and after with the new units, and now the revised version just has the new units going forward.
So that's the one that's going in there, not the older one.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Yes, we're not going backwards on. the
Well, we're
fees.
not putting both is what I meant. We're not putting
No.
both.
No, it'll be the
The new
going forward
version.
what the new
Mhm.
version is, yeah. And yeah, we do have the sprinkler system standby water fee pending, so do we wanna, for that particular one, we're saying that
We
we
don't charge.
shouldn't put that in our fees? Okay,
I mean, you think of a building, Shaw's. Okay? That's $1.5 million building on the tax rolls. And sprinkler system saves buildings. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Thing starts at night, it's gonna put it out. And, before we get there. And, you lose that building and the Pomelo or the developer says, I don't know if I wanna rebuild in Bristol to that with all that new Act 250, the whole permitting process. I guess then we've lost. To try to get a few $100s of sprinkler money, water money, we've lost possibly something off the grand list of a couple $1 million, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, those sprinklers won't use any water unless they're activated.
Right.
If-
Although the Legion.
And we really
filled-
don't
the
want them
Legion
activated.
Legion filled their basement one time when
When it
Yeah.
failed,
when
Did it
their
fail?
The air pump.
compressor went
When the
off.
power went off and they didn't have backup, had a leak in it, yeah.
so this is the fees that we currently have. This is our new rate structure. And then we had a comment at the bottom here. I just deleted the sprinkler system information. We've got better definition here. This is me writing this, but I don't remember the surcharge, failure to provide.
Oh, this is
access. Oh, that's
access,
right,
yeah.
yes.
They won't let us get in to
Right,
read the.
so better definite, what do we want in terms of? Is it just in terms of what, well, I mean, we've got the failure to provide access.
Well, I thought Kevin had done, you should check, because I thought Kevin had put something in there about the town has a right to access for
Okay.
Vermont statute or something or other like that.
Alright.
And maybe you just refer to that section.
Okay.
Has there been any pushback from the new billing process?
No,
No, we've had a few errors that we've corrected, but
But for the most part,
It's working better?
everybody's,
I mean, the average user has actually seen
A drop.
either a drop or a steady, and they understand their water bill.
Mhm,
That's the biggest one. They're like, oh, that's why I'm paying what I'm paying.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard being here, people come in and they say, I have a question about the water, so then I tense up, I'm listening, okay, but usually it's just sort of understanding.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, these changes were made, Chris is really good at sort of explaining the changes that were done, and it's complicated from what we were doing before versus what we're
well,
doing
before
now.
we couldn't even.
No, I know.
explain
I didn't
it.
even have it. I know. I think you should be able to
There
explain
is-
your own payment system. And I think, yeah, most people have always left, like, they understood why, and I've never heard it where there was pushback in terms of complaining, like, I'm not gonna pay that. I think, yeah, so I think it's overall been very positive.
So I would check this, see, it says section, does it say section 2.13, 2.14? I would just check those sections to see
Okay.
what.
Okay. All right,
So what is on that with the reading, you can't get in? What is okay, if somebody just refused to let you in, change the meter, or it's not reading, dead
Well,
meter.
They're
that's what we
gonna
have
get a
to,
fine on their bill.
Right.
That's what that.
yeah.
that
The
that's-
charge-
fine, I want the fine to be, okay, we've
No,
exhausted all things, and it's the middle of July, guess what? Get the wrench out and turn them off. 10 times, 20 times, what is our go-to number that said,
I
we've
know.
been 20 times trying to get you a new meter, and they know they're losing, they know they're using water up there, and they're going, I'm getting a bargain at the rate they're charging me, because I know I'm using, I got a leak downstairs or whatever, and
Right. I don't know, we've always been very hesitant in terms of the absolute shutting off. of
Green Mountain
someone's
Power,
water.
turn your power off, you don't pay your light bill. Why are we
that's a
giving,
utility.
that's a utility.
But water's required for life and electricity is not.
No, Chris, don't give me that, I don't wanna hear
I'm
that.
just wondering what statute is. I mean, do we know what
Right.
state
No, it
statute?
says you could, you,
For 40
we have a
years,
right to
they
turn it
shut
off.
water
For
off.
anything?
yeah,
We can't shut, we
Non-payment
can't
doesn't
shut an apartment house off.
not the whole thing, right?
Or you can't shut just.
Well,
one
no,
unit.
but I mean, if they happen to have individual
Yeah.
services.
But we can't, I know that it's illegal to shut an apartment house
Mm.
off.
Okay,
If I was an
And
apartment house owner,
there
I would never
there
pay my
are
bill
certain
again.
statutes,
If
there are
I heard
certain,
that as an apartment house owner, I'd never pay my bill again.
there are certain requirements, like during the winter time that.
Right,
you
I
know,
get
you have
that.
to-
I said middle
Yeah.
of July, and they haven't paid since
yeah. no,
July of 7 years of taxes. Or 7
No,
years
there-
they've been
There may
paying,
be
and we,
stuff in there, because I think Kevin had, that was part of Kevin's thing to do, is talk about
Jimmy and my.
when we
meter
have rights to go in, we, you know, statutorily, we can go in.
Yeah,
He may, this
Okay.
was also
I'll
probably
check on
part
that.
of his,
Okay.
but check on that.
I'm pretty
Alright.
sure the language, I'm pretty sure the language in the ordinance has Kevin's help
it does.
in there, so that we now have the language in our ordinance if we pass it. We just have
Right,
to,
that says you can get
finalize
in and
it.
get access.
yes, and it's been under his advisement of the steps we have to go through, so it's like, once this is finalized and we do the 30-day warning, etc., then we can actually make this document official, and then we can act upon it.
All right. So that was the ordinance. What would you like to look at next? We can look at briefly look at the budgets, if you want to.
Is this an official meeting, or is this in?
No, it's just like an informational meeting. It's just
Okay.
sort of
So this isn't the-
bringing everything back
Mhm.
to have discussion, and then our official meetings will be in May. Because we're not making decisions about the budgets, it's just sort of like, we definitely wanted to do the
We're
ordinance.
prepping for the meeting.
Correct,
Right.
right.
Mhm.
And I checked, this is what we've done before, at least in previous,
Yeah.
Last year, we've had this meeting, which isn't a sort of its own
Right.
separate water commission meeting. It was just sort of in preparation, getting us back
No,
into
let's look at the
that,
budgets.
into that.
Let's do the
headspace.
budget.
Let's look at
Yeah.
the budgets.
So let's take a look here.
Wait until you're a little older, you're gonna have to have that screen bigger so you can see what you're reading.
I can read these pretty well.
For now.
Maybe. No, it's this. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at. All right, this is the.
You better make it bigger for us.
Oh, sorry. Hang on, if I can, there you go.
That's better.
Okay, there, is that a big one?
See,
So
now
this
you
is-
can see.
This
it.
is the approved water budget for 2025.
Which would take effect July 1 this year.
No,
No, this is the one we're
Oh,
currently.
that's the one we're in.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's confusing. Once
It
we
is very confusing.
synchronize everything together, it's gonna be easier. Because we'll be working on this budget again. We're gonna work on this budget next month, and then we're gonna work on it again starting October and November.
For the 26, 27.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is what's approved and what's in what we approved last
year.
June.
Mhm.
And this runs out here in another 60 days,
Correct.
60 plus days.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we should have one more billing cycle in June.
Right.
So.
So are we
okay,
on
go back.
track?
Looks like we're on track to. So
We seem to be, and I can
Can
show
you
you. So this
scroll
was,
back up?
yeah, this was the approved budget. But I'll show you our updated numbers. So I just
okay.
wanted to show you sort of what it was from last year. So there's that. And then here's where we're looking.
The current status for the
Yes.
budget, okay.
That's what I'm gonna get right now. Sewer, I got so many things here. Here we go.
Would it be possible to get, okay,
What?
I mean, you jump from 1 to 1 and I can't, I'd like to have seen it on a piece of paper.
Well, this is just giving us the current, so
Yeah.
we still have what the budget is for this year. Now it's
Yeah.
just giving us.
That was
where we're
what we
at.
approved, and then this is where our actuals are, because that was the older one.
So that's 3 readings right there, Sharon, 301,000.
Correct.
Should be,
Two
yes.
288.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be September, December and
Oh, I
March.
was looking at total,
And we'll do
okay.
one more read and
Will we get the sugar revenue before the end of our,
we already got
oh,
it.
you did?
Is it not shown there?
No, it's not up on there.
Okay, then we need to move it in there.
Okay.
He did come in and pay. It was
Great.
like, I don't remember how much it was, but I think it was. over
More than
100.
875.
I believe so.
He had a good year.
He did.
So obviously the water salaries, we haven't paid a lot out. So I don't know.
We moved all of that out,
Okay,
is what we discussed.
I was gonna say, I thought we took it out of all of this out of
We're
there.
in that like 2% of water and all
Yeah,
that. stuff
great,
we were doing
okay.
before.
so this will change in the update.
Yeah, It should be zeroed out.
So I understand why we did it. And I agree with why we did it. But this is a separate
Entity.
entity.
Right.
So we just have a line item. And
We
pull
should
it
just
out
have a
and pull
line
it out of
item.
the general fund?
You could do an administrative line cost, an administrative cost that they then pay back to the town of Bristol, to the whole town.
Right.
For
Right.
their services, instead of trying to do percentages and all.
No, I don't wanna do percentages,
that.
but I'm
Yeah, that's doing
asking.
like a flat,
Yeah.
flat number, it's not a bad idea.
Okay. So we can revise this.
Yeah.
And then start to put that in there.
Cost of doing business.
Well, you know, it is
Administrative
but we
cost of
definitely
doing.
want-
somebody has to do it,
Right.
and being it's an enterprise fund, they should be paying for what they're getting.
I mean, in all reality, just looking at that, I mean, what are we looking at, probably, do like 6-8 grand a year kind of flat line?
Well, we budgeted,
Oh, what?
19.
Oh,
19.
yeah,
I was thinking that same thing, Chris, maybe
that's why I was,
$10 a curb stop.
yeah,
Or a customer.
I don't know why it was that
And
high.
maybe $7,000.
There's a reason.
They were taking part of my salary and part of Valerie's.
Right, so maybe that's what it is, the combined
Yeah,
two.
yeah, even though like, she did some of this, but the day-to-day,
You do.
Right.
Mhm.
I do.
Yeah.
And the bills.
Yeah,
So
let's just,
we need to figure out what we think.
We just
that-
need a fair number.
yeah,
that's
let's
right.
just come up with a
I think the
number.
2,700 you have billed there is roughly 1/4.
things will
Okay.
start doing that.
Okay,
Yeah,
we can look
so
at that.
it's 3, 6, 9, 12.
10,
So-
12.
Right, and I don't
I-
know, I mean, do you,
My idea, you guys, was $5 a customer per quarter. That's $20 a year per that's 14,000 if we get 700 customers. It's $5 for Sharon to come up, Chris come up to the counter, thank you, Joel, for paying your bill, stamping your
Yeah, but
check.
we gotta print out.
Right,
the
no, yeah,
bills.
right, you get
Yeah.
$5 a
Same-
quarter
same-
per,
Same thing for sewer too.
Yeah.
except that's
And it's
a smaller
$5, yeah.
scale.
okay, I mean, that might be a simple way to do
easiest
it,
way to
yeah,
do it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
keep it simple.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay,
and that would be based on bills, not EUs.
Right,
right, not bills on.
number of
right.
users.
We're gonna pay a Mount bill versus the
Still
trailer
gonna be
park,
$5.
somebody, a little widow in her trailer, it's the same $5 to process that account.
Yeah.
okay,
And run it down to the bank, and, yeah.
okay.
God, our electricity's high.
Yeah. So we can say because we were updating our other budgets to sort of compartmentalize them or categorize them a little bit, I sort of did that with this, and we'll do it further now that we're sort of working on the personnel side, so that'll be making it even cleaner.
The Lincoln property tax, didn't that go up? Didn't we have a reappraisal?
This is what we've been,
We did, but it's.
Still in
we-
current
Still
use.
within
we're still in
$500?
current use.
Oh,
Still in current use.
Yeah, it went up a little, but not a lot.
Mhm.
yeah, electricity's high, and
Mhm.
we.
Yeah, we spent a lot of money down at the,
Yeah,
Is the sun not shining enough?
I guess not for the amount of solar that we have
yeah,
connected to it.
and the water house does take a lot of solar plus a lot of regular electricity.
Yeah.
It's a huge.
Right, that was
They're
one
our
of the ones that
biggest,
we,
between that and the street
Yeah.
lights.
but we're not getting a tremendous amount of solar anyway,
Yeah.
that's at least
Well,
from.
we're getting quite a bit
116.
there, but
Yeah,
I still don't understand that solar crap. I'm glad you guys all do.
well, the sun comes down.
It's
No,
just-
I don't understand, don't understand the charges and why we pay them.
Prorated, yeah.
Right.
You're paying for the power, but what you're paying for the power is paying for the infrastructure.
Yeah,
Essentially,
I just roll my eyes.
everything that the 116 produces goes to the town. And then
Right,
our agreement is that we only have 9% or 10% of whatever it was. And so that's what we pay the rest, but essentially everything is coming to us as a town. If we owned it, it'd be great, because that we'd get 100% of it, but we don't, we only get the 10%.
yeah, and if you made more than what you needed, then we get credits.
But I mean, anything that we build, any new
we
building.
won't ever get to that point.
Well, any new building that we build, for example, a public works building, you'd wanna put as much solar as you can with the highest rated panels on that roof to be able to capture as much, and hopefully, easily take care of that building and offset some of these costs, because we will always have these. And we don't really have any options to put solar anywhere else unless we have land and do that, but.
I had a whole landfill. Let somebody else put solar.
It's true. But it's an expensive project.
It is,
Oh, yeah,
it's,
sure is.
that's,
Yeah,
Even the small ones are expensive, so.
yeah. But the panels, I mean, they're getting more and more efficient. I put some in my garage, and every day I'm like, oh yeah, the sun's out, this is great. Oh, I've got $4, fantastic.
and it rained all weekend and you lost 10.
What are we putting in for under supplies? We budgeted 28,000 and we
So
spent 12.
meter pads, weren't they? The
Well,
meter
we've done
pads?
Well, they're up
touch
above.
pads as its
Meter
own.
pads, we didn't spend any, nothing else.
I can speak to that. That's not just meters. That's also like all your water line repairs, your valve replacements,
That's
So
under
anytime-
supplies.
Yeah.
anytime you
Okay.
have to fix a water main, part of it is your contracted services or valves that go bad or stuff like that. And part of it is parts, and like water parts are not cheap.
Yeah, because we have our own line for meters and touchpads, so everything else, it's a catch-all for all of that. Anything
I
that's
really-
associated with that.
Yeah, I honestly believe that the meters and touchpads are getting put under the supplies line. So if
Okay.
you, unless you wish to keep that combined, you might not want to. Or unless you wish to keep it separate, you might not want to, because I don't believe it's being entered in the accounting system separately.
I think to give a little history there was when Teresa was here, remember we were big push that, we were going to save money because we're gonna change everybody's pads at the sewer plant. Everybody who was a sewer user was gonna get new pad. touchpad meter because she thought we were losing money, they weren't reading properly. Well, that
Well,
didn't
that
work.
definitely
work.
happened. That happened like.
Right, we
9
changed all
years ago.
those, but we didn't see a huge meter increase for the users.
Yeah.
But I think that's why she wanted them separate, meters and touchpads were separate from supplies.
I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do in your coding of your accounting. If you want to have that line, then if meters, touchpads, wire for them, etc., corner horns and that are purchased, they would need to get coded to that line, but I don't believe they are. I think everything's getting coded to supplies, so I don't think you're not seeing that separated out because it's not being coded that way.
How many meters have you done since July 1st of last year?
God, like 20?
So, and there.
Yeah, so there should be a number there.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Just
whole
combine
lot
them.
simpler if it's one
Combine
line.
Okay.
Just put meter and supplies. Meters and supplies.
Right. Okay.
Supplies at all.
Kind of like, because supplies it's everything. I have a feeling like the chemicals for the water treatment are under supplies. You've got your little testing supplies, you've got water lines and valves, and yeah, it's kind of like, it's the everything for water.
Yeah.
That you have to buy, that are the things.
We've got we've got the, obviously, supplies, building, overhead and maintenance, compliance, and then we have our debt, our 2 or 3 loans.
So how
We
come-
stopped
how-
with one.
see, did something not get put in the right line there?
We're not paid
Why,
yet.
why is our actual 63 and our budget 55? That should be a number that we can predict.
I don't know, this is.
I wonder if West Street's up and putting that 63, part of West Street's, no, they wouldn't.
Yeah, 'cause that'd be.
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
paid Pine Street yet, have we?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, Pine Street would have had its first payment last fall because it comes due a year after you finish your substantial completion of construction.
Yeah,
So
we
you should have
need the
had a
first
Pine
payment.
Street payment.
Okay.
And
Well,
it should be
something's
West
off.
Street. West Street certainly should have been paid.
Right. So
Yeah.
something's off there,
There's something that's,
missing. But did we finish paying a bill this year, or was that in the sewer? Did we finish paying something off? Because I saw when I was looking at the documents.
We
that-
finished paying
You
North
put it
Street.
in
We
the
finished
capital.
paying North Street off.
Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
That was
Okay,
from
so
the
that would have been
previous.
sewer.
Yes.
That was the
No,
sewer.
wasn't.
North Street was all the way to, up North Street, we did that back.
it was
in-
up to the school when we did.
Yeah, well,
the-
I was just
when we
thinking, I
did
saw
the-
something where
We paid
it
one.
got paid, it got taken out of there and put into the capital.
Can you slide up
Capital
the
fund.
revenue for a minute? So I have a question. I had a bill for $8,300 of all my copper and all my services on Pine Street. Is that in that miscellaneous revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then slide down to supplies. Is 8,300 of that supply of the 12,900?
I don't know, Joel, because the way you paid for it, it was a pain in the ass. to actually- You want it true. The way you
was
paid
told-
direct, trust me, it was so I can't guarantee that that's where that money is.
Yeah.
But we recorded.
I think the money's there, I'm
The
pretty
cash
sure
is
it got applied under supply.
How I got, that's all, I'm
But
just
that's normally
asking.
what it should be, right? Those two
Yeah.
should balance out in terms of
Yeah.
that.
Somewhat.
So was it $4,600 worth of town supplies and
Yeah.
8,300 was, that's why I'm just asking the
Yeah.
question.
So
I
that,
remember that
what you
day,
just,
because they said we can direct
what
deposit.
he's just talking about for the miscellaneous revenue, why isn't that under water service connection fees?
It wasn't a connection fee, it was all the supplies.
Supplies, oh, okay.
Supplies,
It was all 2-inch copper and all the 5 curb stops and the.
But do we not have any water service connections this year? I mean, did we have J Drive?
I paid,
Didn't we
I
have
paid-
yours?
yeah. I paid
Didn't we
500.
have,
whatever it
well, I
was.
don't know if we've done the one Adams.
When you didn't budget for any, it looks like.
I mean, it seems like we've
Yeah.
had some, so they're just,
Would have to be in miscellaneous.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
But I mean, I
probably,
think
you probably just need to run a ledger report on miscellaneous revenue and then recode the things that are actually your water connection fees.
Yeah, because we had the changes in NEMRIC, a lot of stuff got moved around and then, and now, once we get into this in May, we start revising and rebuilding.
Since we
this
made the
structure.
changes, we have,
Yeah,
nothing's been put in there.
yeah.
Okay.
So then we've got the debt, obviously, and then we've got our capital equipment fund, and then our roads. Roads were a little bit over, sort of reimbursing our capital roads paving for that. So one of the things that we need to discuss, and we'll do this in May, is sort of the increasing the capital equipment fund plan to match what we're applying for in terms of the water loans. Currently, the debt of the water service is at 50,000 is too low to hit the threshold that we need. So one of the ideas was to increase that debt. And you maybe bump it from 50 to 100.
You're talking about the service load for the loan, like to see
Correct.
what our,
Yeah, because we have a
Debt
spreadsheet
ratio is.
that the state uses.
Right.
So you can type in your details and it talks about what's your capital equipment or capital, water fund. And so you can put numbers in there. And so if you put lower numbers in there, then it starts to change
Right.
what you're able to get. So we want to be very mindful of that. And as we work through this, we'll have a clear idea. Is it something where, are we doubling this for this next budget? Do we put it to 100,000? Do we put it to 75? We'll have to sort of see. And obviously all of this is predicated on our rate that's for our district not changing that much over the next few years in order to hit those thresholds that we need. So just something for everyone to be aware of. Yeah, and it's something where we only need to do it, we only need to increase it for a few years as we build up debt for the entire district as we do these projects. And then once we reach a point where we have enough debt because we're doing $4 million projects, then we could lower that down. And so it doesn't, as you'll see in a minute, with the rate increases over many, many years, by lowering that down, it's not as huge an increase. So that's water. Let's take a quick look at sewer.
Yeah, for water, those trick words are like, you've got to have your equivalent, your ERU, your cost per ERU has to be at least 1% of MHI in order to get subsidy. So we've got the equation, so we can just kind of back the numbers in now that we have it and just make sure that we're not missing out on millions.
Is this the sewer? Can you go, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can you go back to the water? I have
Sure.
more questions on that.
Yeah.
And it's back to the.
you need to be a little quicker.
Well, Jill's question about the state saying, well, we don't have enough debt. I'm not sure we have plenty of debt, but I'm not sure we calculated it correctly. And I'm gonna show the point what I mean here in a minute.
Okay.
Down at the bottom. Well, start at the top first, look at the top. Sorry, this is the actual, as of 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday. Okay, now go to the bottom. We've only spent $82,000.
No,
we already said
that
that's not
formula
right.
is inaccurate.
Western Punch Street.
Well, there's a lot more than
payment.
just that.
Well, you add 50 some odd $1,000 in there.
Yeah, essentially it's this number here, the 389 matches this. It's identical, right? And it's just that these are the actuals and we just haven't been applied yet.
No, your formula is wrong in your third column. 82,850, 87 is not the total of all of your expenditures. You're missing a bunch.
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry.
Right.
That's my mistake. Correct.
And that's where I was getting at
Yes,
was,
yes.
wait, I'm going, you want us to approve a budget when I'm not sure what we spent already this year?
No, we're not. Yeah.
If you asked me to say, oh my God, we only got 60 days left, well, 65 days left, I'll say, geez,
We're gonna have a hell of a surplus.
We're gonna have a hell of a
No,
surplus. We don't need to
you're
spend
right.
that kind of money.
I missed that. I apologize. But I mean, so this is our debt down here. That's essentially balances out. It's equal to what we bring in, and what we bring in is determined by what the debt is.
On the other sheet, it was 300 and something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it, that we've spent? The first sheet.
The first sheet from last year, you mean?
The one he had.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ian, are these drafts gonna be the ones that we can work against? Like we did the other budgets, able to go out and put current information in, or have you set that up yet?
No, we should be able to use those. We have the ones in our master budget, which I pulled across just as the example.
Right, but the one that you were just
Yes.
showing that you.
Yeah, which has the
So-
wrong calculation at the bottom.
Right.
Yes, so those are Excels, and we can start to build that, and we probably want to move it around in terms of doing the updates to the administration. It was just, I went in and pulled the last one that we had done, that we worked on, this was last June.
Yeah,
And then moved around a little bit, obviously missed that calculation at the bottom, but that's what we'll work from.
okay.
Unless we want to do a different system. I'm keeping them outside of the general fund budget, just
Oh,
because
no,
of
that's
the two.
fine. I
Yeah,
just wondered if we were gonna do the same process where we can all have access.
Oh, yes.
Go in
yes, yeah, we'll set that up.
and update stuff.
No, he's gonna control it.
No, I don't want to control it. I want everyone to have access.
Let him change the office around.
Yeah.
Which office?
His office.
No.
We'll move it back, don't worry.
You can move it back, but it's not, yeah.
He wants to be able to see out the window.
No, it's because I don't want the window behind me shining light on the screen, and then it's,
Yeah, now somebody can sneak in behind you.
Why do you sit where I do?
All right, let's look at sewer. Okay. Let's see how poor my calculations are here. Yeah, actually, that might be okay. Steve's yawning away.
So am I.
Sorry about
that.
Mute yourself, Steve. Come on now.
A lot of exercise today.
Stevie going to the CDL's open house on Monday or Saturday down here.
I went up to the one up in St. Albans last weekend.
Megan's having something this weekend, open house.
I spent plenty of
Like,
money
see this,
last weekend.
keep going down the debt service.
Free food though this weekend down there.
There was, well, the other one I was looking at online, the 12,809 was up for USDA payment or something or other.
Okay.
And then it got moved down to the capital
Oh, I
reserve
see,
fund.
yes.
So
Yeah.
something must have changed, and we paid something off.
So we'll do the
Yep.
same for person. Oh, sorry, Jill, you want
The
to
other
respond to
thing
that?
is there, it shows a bond payment for sewer, but it was supposed to have been paid off before this budget. So
So
that
that's
kind
on.
of, is that a water payment that went into sewer maybe?
This is what I pulled from Nemec, so we just got to double check.
Okay, and then the second thing is just a heads up, the maintenance and septic tank, we've pumped after the new budget. We still have another pump out to do before the end of June. So you'll have another big old, that baby will get out. And it looks like if I consider that this is 75% of the revenue and then I times it by 4, I hope it's just that the septic tank or the grease trap pumping maybe just isn't getting billed because we're not getting all the revenue in.
Well, they've been billed.
They haven't paid.
They haven't paid. We just sent out the bill to bring them current along with their past due balance. So they have been billed.
You mean all
They
the
have
all
one
of the sewer
four.
users?
All the grease trap.
Oh, the
Just
grease traps,
four
the 4 grease traps.
that we paid for,
Mhm.
and then we bill them back, but only one of the 4 have paid the original bill. And I just sent out
I know who
one for
that
the
is.
last year.
Why are we
Happy
paying
Monkeys.
that? Why don't we have them billed direct? And then well, of course, if they didn't pay, then they wouldn't get pumped again.
We know they're
And they
getting
need to be
pumped.
pumped.
I know. We sort of need to have, we've had previous discussions where we sort of need to have control over that. Just because we have to manage the system.
And you can't just shut off the sewer system to them.
Oh, God, you really-
Unfortunately, no, you'd have to shut the water.
Look the other way and give me a plug and I'll go down in there.
So we'll do the same, I think, for personnel here. We'll just have that
One line.
administration fee. So we'll work on that internally and before we bring it to the discussion for the next meeting. Figuring out, so this whole section will sort of come out and be simplified.
So is that 35,000, that's 3 reads? We got one more read of sewer too?
Yeah,
Should be.
yeah, we should have one.
We do
more
that-
for sure.
We do that 4 times a year?
Yeah.
So I took that 38, divided by 3 and times it by 4, and it comes up with a revenue of about 68.5. If we're gonna be over that, I mean, that's a good thing.
That can't be right. That's 3 there.
That's 35,
That's
230.
10.
divided by.
That's
Another-
12,000, 12,000.
11,746 times 4. It's 46,900, so we're gonna be short.
Oh, sure, yeah, I was gonna
It's
say.
gonna be short. Yeah, it's gonna be short $11,000, and we're not gonna be short in cost $11,000. That's why I was kind of saying something is amiss here.
Well, we certainly aren't using all the money in our personnel.
I mean, yeah, essentially, if you look at the comparison sheet that I put together, it breaks down from 21 to our current year. And for the last 3 years, we've been in the red.
Oh, yeah.
But
saw
so,
that.
yeah,
It's like, well, that's
22
really
was
depressing.
22 was 11,666. 23 was 13,852, and then 24 was 9,685. So we need to fix that. So essentially, sort of revenue shortfalls are mostly consistent appear in user fees, which have never met budgeted expectations. The maintenance and septic tank, that's
But if we
fluctuates a
can
lot.
if we can get where the BOD is higher and charge for that, we'll probably be able to make that up.
Right.
I know we want to get rid of it, but.
Yes, so we would look at that, and that would be part of the discussion at our next meetings. So there's that.
Just need to put a sign on all the restaurants. So you buy a beer, you gotta drink the whole beer.
Yeah, no dumping.
Drink up their beers.
No dumping.
Yeah.
It's bad for the sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they aren't supposed to be dumping it in the sewer anyway.
right, exactly.
Supposed to be composting it.
I believe that certain
It's a
high street
liquid,
waste
though.
are being put down the drain. I mean, if people would just understand that a sewer is just for water and human waste and that's it, period, that's it. And realize that a garbage can or a compost bin is for everything else, that we would all be in such good shape.
Yeah, so I know, so if we can educate that, hopefully that will help the system going forward.
I mean, I don't see you getting restaurants to change that much. You want my honest opinion? They've been doing it this way forever.
No, you're absolutely.
And I mean, if I was a restaurant owner and you put these kind of limitations on me, I'd be shuttering in 6 months, because to have my staff keep a 5-gallon bucket of stale beer behind them, that's not gonna happen.
They're supposed to be composting anyway.
Liquid beer is.
Not in the composting law.
Yeah, that beer, how do they get rid of soda and beer waste?
Yeah.
Pour it outside so the skunks can get drunk.
Okay, good, that's on record now, thank you, Sharon.
We just heard that, people.
You just gave them all a good idea.
I know, but it's part of it, because it's, you
She's
know,
a skunk
if we
friend.
don't try to educate, there's more and more damage to our system, and then they can't be here anyway when we don't have a sewer system.
Right, if our
That
sewer
works-
system
works,
fails,
yeah.
they're out.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so there's that, so there's the 2 budgets, what have we talked about, the ordinance, the 2 budgets,
Capital improvement plan.
and then, yeah, capital improvement, let's look on that.
Is there
That's
any
the last
money in
one.
the sewer budget that's, well, we asked this question, we've been waiting for an answer for 6 to 10 years. No, kiddingly, about 6 to 10 months, was we thought we had surpluses. I looked at, we're gonna have a deficit of about $4,000 in the sewer. If I just take that 35.3 and divide it by 3 and times it by 4, you're gonna be about $48,000 or $3,000 to $4,000 short in your sewer budget, finishing up in 60 odd days. Well, we don't know when I asked Nemrick, whoever, did we have any surplus last year in water or sewer? We're not sure.
And that's the
Do you-
audit.
That's the audit.
Well, we've been asking that. We were told at one time we had about $125,000 surplus, Jill thought, from 10 years back, from adding up, and who knows? I've never been told whether we have a surplus or a deficit in water or sewer.
So I mean, I spent all day today trying to figure out water.
It flows downhill and pumps up.
But it's a mess because of how indebted you are and the way we've paid for it. And the fact that you spent a bunch of stuff out of the general fund to pay for Pine Street did not help the cause any. So our books look really crappy in the audit they're doing right now, but we make up for it the following year. So back to your question, no, you don't have a surplus probably on the books.
Not for last year, but I wanted to know.
For any of them,
Yeah.
yeah.
For any year.
I think unfortunately, because Pine Street was accelerated, Pine Street was supposed to be 10 years from now, from our original plan. And it was accelerated for a couple of reasons. A, because of availability of the loans and the potential
didn't
forgiveness
get.
at the state level, but also two, working out how long it would take for us to save the money to do the system. It just wasn't feasible. You know, it was another 10 years before we started Pine Street, where we would have enough to be able to do that, and that was maybe a $700,000 or $800,000 project.
I get that, but what I don't understand is the voters bonded for up to $9,000, 900,000. We spent 750, 800. Okay, I get that.
65.
Or whatever.
Right.
Okay, then why didn't we go down to your local bond bank and say, we need a bond for whatever it came in at, and that's over, like we did the fire station, over 20 years. And that payment's so much a year, then it's going into the water department. This, when I hear this, you know, you've used general fund and this one, that really makes me irritated. Not to Chris, I'm not irritated to Chris, he's finding these things out, but
Right.
why didn't we just get a bond for the amount of money we borrowed and it goes to the water department? Like, we know Brett's budget, it's $118,000 of budget is a bond payment for that fire station.
And we did, we have the loan from the state, which we're paying off, which we thought we'd get forgiveness. So we have that part, but we also have the complication of that you're not getting reimbursed for that loan. You have to have the money up front. And so that's something where you would have bonded to have that money and have it be a completely separate project.
But we shouldn't have
Or
borrowed it from
taken
the
out a
town.
note or something like that.
Correct.
Right,
That's-
Joel, you are correct 100%.
Yes.
Well, we should have taken out a short-term note to
like
cover,
we did for Webster.
yeah, to cover the cost up front. But
Right.
as we get reimbursement, you pay that off and then go to the bond bank for the long-term loan.
Yeah.
You are correct. That would be the better way to do it.
Yeah, because we have the bond. I mean, we do have that and we're paying that off now. That's the 34 that we saw in the budget. It's just how we paid for it initially was just because we had the money. I don't know.
So when we got the bond, we then reimbursed the general fund for what we've already paid out.
Unfortunately, it didn't cover everything.
Yeah.
We still have
You're about
deficit
$200,000 short.
So how come we didn't have enough in the bond to cover all of it?
Well, you did, I don't know, I'm just, from when I looked at funds today, you borrowed $781,000 and you spent almost $1 million. So I don't know why you borrowed what you borrowed.
How can that be?
Did we
How
spend
do
a
we not
million?
know?
Because we're doing
It can't be.
not just Pine Street, but we're doing
Steve's talking.
Bristol West,
I don't know.
part of that.
Steve, do you have something?
Yeah, we had everything tracked to the penny, and Peaker's right, it was 700 and, no, sorry, it was a little over 800,000, I think. Everything included, so it's not $1 million.
I think the additional charges that you're seeing are probably for engineering for the other projects. It's
not.
Okay, well, we'll have to.
We need to
look at
figure that out. I
tomorrow,
mean,
Yeah, because I'd like to see us not keep tapping into the
Oh,
general
no,
town's fund.
We can't.
Can't work.
We shouldn't have done it for that project. It would just happen that way, unfortunately. But going forward, we know we can. I mean, the next phase, which we'll see in a minute, is our bond is 3.95 million. And that's probably what the project's gonna cost. And so we need to figure out, and there are a few ways that we're looking at doing that. Maybe there might be potential where we don't have to outlay any money at all. Payment is directly from the state. And so we're really gonna pursue that avenue. But it's something where we would have to borrow the money up front because there is no other way to do it. It's so much money that we can't, there's nothing available to us apart from borrowing up front, which is what we should have done for Pine. And I don't know why we did.
live and learn.
Yeah.
We also know that the bond bank didn't approve all the charges that were on there either. So that's part of the problem.
Right. So we'll have
So
to-
did they not approve those before we went for the bond or after we went for the bond?
We went for the bond after the fact.
We need to be smarter next time.
Yeah, and I think maybe we could even go back and just kind of explain. So like a project starts with a study, which we call step 1. That has a cost. And that's way before it's constructed. And then it goes through a design. So your study, let's just use round numbers. Maybe your study is 50,000. And that was done a lot, like many, many years ago. Then you have your design, and let's call that, just for numbers again, like 300,000. Then you have your construction, which is 3 million. You bond for a project, you don't actually get your money from the bond bank until after you get into, so you can get a repayment of step 1 through the SRF program. As you submit monthly reimbursement requests, you can get repayment in step 2, again, without having to go onto the P list. You just have to submit potentially monthly reimbursement requests for your costs. And it's all about getting approval from the state. And then you go into step 3. And again, you want to make sure you're getting monthly reimbursement requests in and getting reimbursed by the state. So you have a program that'll support your step 1 and step 2 without your P list, and your step 3 with your P list. If you're not doing, what's that?
What does P list stand for, please?
Oh, it's your state revolving loan fund priority list. So the revolving loan fund has one for drinking water and one for clean water. Drinking water is what we're focused on for the water side. We've got 3 people in the drinking water SRF program that we can contact through. And I think a huge part of where efficiency can be gained in the budgeting and in cash flow is in making sure that monthly reimbursement requests are being done for all phases of each project on all the different loans. So like, I think what was happening is like an entire study would get done, and then maybe one reimbursement request would get done to try to recapture that months or a year later. A design would get done, and then maybe, and also the state was behind on reviewing applications, and then, you know, almost an entire design might get paid back months or a year later. So you're in the end of design on your Bristol West, and you're in the beginning of your design on Bristol East. Those are different loan agreements. And what happens is each project is its own little beast with 3 steps. You don't start paying back your bond, meaning your loan payments don't happen until a year after the construction finishes. So you're spending the money, you're getting reimbursed. You're spending the money, you're getting reimbursed. So let's say that this was Bristol West. You're going to have spent that $3.9 million likely. You won't get reimbursed for that. You'll get reimbursed for that throughout the project. And then a year later, you'll have to start making that bond payment. So I think a big reason why you guys are seeing your cash flow issues are 2. 1, monthly reimbursement request should be getting done on each project with all project costs for each loan. And number 2, you do need to have a line of credit and combine that with 2-party checks so that you don't incur a bunch of interest costs, because that is not reimbursable.
Yeah, and oftentimes especially with the DWSRF, you can get your engineering loan, which might be 300,000, and then that can sometimes be wrapped into the construction loan.
Always, so unless you don't move ahead, always.
Yeah, those combine together, which makes it a little bit cleaner, but also adds another layer of complication, because you're not just thinking about, oh yeah, where's that engineering loan? Oh no, it's wrapped into this now as this final price.
Yeah, but I'm super happy to work with, you know, Ian or Sharon or Chris or your grant administrator to understand the reimbursement process and how to get on that schedule. And that way you get your money back like 15 to 30 days after you spend it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get Frida. I've talked to her about it. And so I'm hoping that we can get her up to speed. I think myself and Jill and probably Chris and Sharon will meet and sort of talk about that as we move forward, because I'd really like her to handle that. It's very similar to grant submissions. So I think, you know, she would pick it up very quickly and be able to handle that, because we do, because of these projects, we really need that. So if we look at the,
You all right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
this is our, can everyone read that, or is that?
No.
Okay, sorry.
I'm glad you guys.
I have old eyes.
Well, that's a heck of a lot of fields here. Is that better?
Yeah.
You gotta move closer.
Here, let me leave.
I can read it at least.
All right. So this is our whole capital improvement plan that Valerie put together. I've been updating here and there, as has Sharon. We're just going to focus on obviously the water department here. So we've got contribution to reserve funds at the top here. Don't look at this. This is still being updated in terms of what our current balance is. So don't.
Yeah,
That's what it
way
tells me,
off.
Nemrick, but I think because of all the complications that we've had. So we've got, and then we've got what we're spending it on. So we had various things outside of just the water project. We had various projects that we were looking to do, replace the compost control, do major leaks. Major leaks are continued every year. This is our school street extension.
Which ain't done anything on yet.
Yeah, no, radius meters, things like that. So I've added in here our water line projects. So now we've got Bristol West. And so where you can see here that in 2025, we're in the engineering phase of that. So that's our 300,000. And then we've
So
got.
do we have a loan for that?
We do. Yeah.
Line
And
of
then we
credit,
have-
whatever.
And then we're working to get the loan for the construction side of
piece.
things. And we have questions that have been asked about our application. And part of it is updating these capital improvement plans.
So you said, I see that it says a number of 700,000 there for
Yeah.
construction. So if that's a 3-year project or a 6.
Well, it's, so
Every
each
2 years.
each phase is different. So each phase is probably gonna be 2 years.
So the 3.9 is all the phases.
Correct.
And that's 700 and then
No,
it's 3.
it's one phase. So the 3.9 is one phase. So essentially it consists of broadly the engineering for 300,000, our first year of construction because of the way that the year falls and our financial year is.
Oh, okay.
We've got 700,000. And then we've got 3 million to wrap up the project. So that's phase 2. And then we're just repeating the same again. We start to do
For phase
engineering for east, 300,000. When we start construction, a year after we finish construction on phase 2, it's 700,000 and then 3 million. And then for Rockydale, it's a little bit different. We have a feasibility study because we're not sure what we're going to do. Do we go over the mountain? Do we go under the road? So there's a feasibility study. We've got the engineering. And then again, we've got the first phase of construction and then second year of construction.
And I think there's gonna be a lot more than that.
Well, so the Rockydale, yeah, I mean, we're putting it as 4 million right now, basing it on just on the other projects. It's obviously you're serving a lot less people with this, but you have the complication of are you running it under a rocky mountain or or do you
under
running it down the road or you're right, exactly. So, these numbers are just very, very rough numbers. And this is speaking with Jill, with Steve, about what these projects are going to look like.
But my question is back to that one
Sure.
right there, that line you're in, 300,000.
Here?
No, the next year. Go
Here.
one more over, right there.
3
I thought
million.
That's
3 million, excuse me, that's
Okay.
what I thought, 3 million. I thought we were going to do this, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. You were going to do like 3 streets in 26 and then take a year off and do 3 more streets. We're talking Bristol West. Then
Yeah.
3 more streets in 28, then take a year off and then 3 more streets. And finished it up. I thought that was the plan.
No, it's 2 years.
Yep, 2 years, we're gonna split Bristol West into 2 sections, right? We had
2 sections, okay, so at first you had talked about not tear it all up for 3 years in a row, but give them a year off and then come back on the even year. I thought that's what we talked about way back.
No, it's always been 2-year project right from the start.
Okay,
And we debated whether to do it in 1 year, whether it was even possible to do that, whether you would get the right contractor to be able to do it. The more that we work on this, the more likely it's gonna have to be split over 2 years. Just to be able to
okay,
get-
no, I'm not opposed to that, I'm just asking why I thought the 3 would have been out, maybe 1.5 and 1.5.
Yeah.
Another year, so 3 years out.
I mean, it's definitely Bristol West because it's already in motion, because we've obviously bonded for it and we have the application in. This is what we're looking at. I mean,
Okay.
we could still split it out if we felt it needed to go 3
No.
years, but then it affects these. And again, we're engineering for east now, but we still have the decision to make if it's gonna be 2 years or do we put it 3 years? It's hard because you're taking on these enormous projects and you can see our debt is getting greater and greater.
So I'm sorry, so I see all the blue flags out, Jill, and I know what they are. You're marking the curb stops or water lines going into everybody's houses. And
Yes.
obviously Steve is coming along with the GPS and marking those.
Yep.
which I thought we did about 10 years ago with Green Mountain. So is these going to be saved in a data point where?
Yeah.
They're gonna be on that new.
The
GIS
be a layer on
GIS
that new
map.
Yeah.
So part of the GIS has a lot of the two-dimensional maps that come from LaRose. That's the main thing that they're updating. AZ on their own, in their own time, will be taking the data from Steve, which actually is a combination of two-dimensional mapping as well as GPS locations. And so because of that, it's a much simpler way to import that and put that into GIS.
So what Green Mountain Engineering did years ago, sitting on a shelf somewhere, nobody's used it.
Probably.
Oh, I
I don't
use it
know.
every day. I use it every day, but it's not, I don't have sub-centimeter GIS locating. So I have a cell phone, like I don't have survey equipment to find that point.
Are we repeating what they did 10 years ago? Just a little more cleaner and updated?
Honestly,
GIS?
what they did was they put the dots in the map with the northing and easting. So the northing and easting are coordinates. I will say about a third of them are property pins. I don't believe that the person that marked them out actually dug them up and made sure there was a curb top there. I think they found a spot that made a sound, and these are literally the actual curb, so that when they poke a hole in the water line and they put a line to come to it, and then they return later that season to hook it up, it's actually the water line and not a property pin or a noisy spot in the soil.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, most of them blue things are gonna be gone by June or July when people mow their lawn.
Yeah, Steve already came and surveyed in the 3 streets that we did last week. And then we're working on another street this week. So, I mean, he's coming by quite quickly because I imagine we'll tear them out pretty swiftly.
Yeah.
We're adding a bit of paint just in case a couple pop out within a couple days because everybody likes to touch things. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention is in my brain, I think in calendar years. So when I look at this, it looks all messed up, but it's because these are fiscal years. So July 24 to June 25 is half a construction season. July 25 to June 26 is half a construction season because they start in April and they don't finish till November. So you're really in a calendar year, you're going to have 2 pretty even years of construction, but in your fiscal year, you're going to have a quarter of the construction in your FY26 and you're going to have 3/4 of it in your FY27.
Which is why we split that.
We're starting in July here in a couple of months, but that 700,000 isn't gonna be spent until about April 1st through June 30th of next year.
You're
That's
100% correct. Yep,
And then
100%
3
correct.
million is, okay.
Yeah, and the water line, I mean, all that data that we've done previously, because it's always been two-dimensional architectural drawings. There's been no real easy way to be able to reference that apart from just looking at the plans and walking and things like that. I mean, there's data in there. Having the GIS is a whole another system that we can use where you have that data captured that will always be there, that's accessible via a phone or the web, portal. Like it's going to be a much greater system for us to use. It's where the data is not going to be lost, and you can create any number of layers on top of what they're doing in terms of the tax mapping and boundaries. The water line is going to be one layer. Our new trees that we're putting on can be another layer. I'm going to have AZ sort of just show me in terms of the GIS when they start working on that, so I have a familiarity with it as well.
Okay.
Because I don't want, I think the more people we have that are interested in this and know how to use it, the better. So this is our, the very broad numbers in terms of this project, and as you can see, our debt increases by quite a lot over the next few years. And this is also including, as we're doing maintenance on projects like major leak repairs, things like that. That's that 40,020 is included in here, and that's mostly this is coming out of our capital fund.
I'd hope
our reserve fund. Sorry,
we get Bristol West done. We won't put so much money into repairs because
that's
they'll go.
Yeah.
Not all of them are going away because we still got Bristol East.
So you've got the debt down below.
Yes.
It says the DWSRF Long Village water lines forgiven. So why is you've got 560 or 5660 for the next 26, 27, 27, 28?
Down here, you mean?
Yeah, you see where you have 56. Keep going down.
Keep going down.
No, right where you are, but it's like, see where it says 5,660,
Where are you looking?
the debt.
Here, that's our,
56.
oh, down here.
Right here.
Okay, what are those?
I don't know, but it says forgiven, and then you've got numbers in there, so I was trying to figure out why you've got numbers in there if it's
Oh.
forgiven.
No, it's not forgiven. This is our current debt that we have. So this is our engineering loan for West Street, and these are the other ones that we currently have.
Yeah, but it says village water lines forgiven,
That's correct. Those are old ones.
but you got numbers in that line.
Correct. That was for the engineering for Pine Street, I believe. It's very complicated. There's a lot of different parts to each of these projects. And so you have these small little amounts that we've borrowed that weren't wrapped in to construction.
Well, no, I understand that, but it just says it's forgiven, so I was trying to figure out,
Why
if
is
it's
there a
forgiven,
number
why
there?
are there numbers going there? Maybe you need to get rid of the forgiven piece.
Right. That was already in there
Yeah.
before I started
We only
updating
give
this.
forgiven for 2 years.
The one that we had these two in, which is the ones we have,
Yeah.
and then we obviously have our new one here, which is our 34.
Yeah.
So once we start doing these projects, we'll start to see our next loans go in here.
Right.
I'll look at that. It was already in here as part of that. And I think it's a set number of years that we're just paying those off. But I'll double check. And then, let's go back and stop this. So then, connected with this, we have, let's just go back. Okay. So this is the last part of this. It's a lot more numbers. Everyone read that? Just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding. Okay. So this is the piece that we've never really had in terms of these projects. And this is solely for loan calculations for the current projects that we have, or the current loans, which is the USDA refinance, West Street, and here's Pine. And then these are our new ones that we're looking at. We know we're moving into the Bristol West at the moment. We've obviously bonded for that. These are the projects that come after that. So as far as I remember, in all of our meetings in terms of discussing this, we've never had this breakout where we've really done the full amount of what it might cost. So I've created a couple of scenarios here, and I've talked to Sharon and Chris about this previously, and also Jill and Steve. So this is our breakdown. So here we are in 25, and this is what it costs in terms of our expenditures for the water district.
Meaning that's all of the payments added up. That we
No, this is
spent.
what, this
This
is
is
our,
the actual expense.
this is our operating cost.
Okay.
Yes. I've added 3% to it as we go forward. Thinking that it would, to keep up with inflation each year. We have our reserve fund, which we currently have at 50. Here's the recommendation to put it to 100 for a couple of years to be able to help us get those loans. And then these are our loans that we're currently paying off and when we're finishing them. So we have the USDA refinance, ends in 2036, West Street ends in 2059.
We did by then.
Pine Street. Let's keep it light, okay? We've got a lot of high numbers. And then we've got our new one, Pine Street, which is a 30-year loan with a 2% fee. And so there we are in 2054. Now, here's where it gets exciting.
Wait a minute, 2%, that doesn't go up 2% a year?
No, that was just
That's
a 2%
included. It's the
admin
admin
fee
fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they didn't forgive.
Yeah, it doesn't go up. It's wrapped into the entire
Okay,
thing.
so 34,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's our payment. So now we're entering into Bristol West. We're applying for that next loan,
Mhm.
which we hope we get. And according to our calculations, as we've talked about before, we should qualify for 40%,
Should.
right? No, I know,
Mhm.
40% forgiveness with 0% admin fee over 40 years.
Shows that 60,000
So this is-
based on
this is-
40% forgiveness.
This is our $4 million.
Mhm.
It's less in terms of our bond, but we're just doing even numbers here.
Mhm.
So this is our 40 years at 60,000. If we go ahead and we get the same, hopefully, for Bristol East, there's our 60, and if we did Rockdale. But as we move along here, you can see that this is where the direction that we're heading in terms of our total payments that we're paying each year and where we are in terms of our approximate costs. So right now, this is where we're at for a quarter. And this is based on
Per BU?
billing
Is that what you're
unit.
saying?
So this
Billing
is, this is, just so everyone knows, this is very rough numbers. It's based on our 977 billing units, which is a combination of residential and,
Right, but that's the
commercial.
amount per bill, we'd have to charge per billing unit in
Correct.
order to,
so essentially
in order to
this
make
is,
these payments.
this is divided, it's this amount.
Yep.
Divided by our 977
Mhm.
number that we have, and the 977 is gonna go up
Mhm.
as we get more, so this is our sort of a higher number.
Mhm.
And then we're dividing it by a quarter.
Right.
That's what we're paying, and that's what we're paying now, because we've just started paying the Pine Street one, and this is what users are looking at. Again, as I say, to be clear, this is just taking all of our billing units, both residential and
Yeah.
commercial. There are differences between billing units,
Right.
between
Yeah.
what they're
Mhm.
using and stuff,
Mhm.
but I want everyone to know that in
Mhm.
terms of looking at this. So you can see with our forgiveness, we go up each year. And so we need to accommodate our budgeting to meet that, because our budget is based on, our water rates are based on what we have to pay in our debt for the system, for the district. So you can see it goes up as we start new loans, as we change our, reserve fund to accommodate those initial loans that we get. By this time, we'll have so much debt that these probably won't matter anymore, having that higher amount of reserve fund. So there's that scenario. So.
I'm thinking, like, why would you put it back down? I mean.
Well, because it by adding that extra 50,000, it adds a lot to the users as we increase.
No, I understand that, but what if you have to bond every time you have to fix something or do something?
Well, the idea is, as Joel has mentioned, that by completely
Fixing
replacing
90%.
water lines, you're hopefully doing less of that. You do need some reserve fund. At the moment, we have 50, and as we've gone through and we fix things here and there, we're obviously using that.
Mhm.
But it's something that we revisit. But the idea is that we would keep it at this just for those few years as we start to get
Mhm.
to this loan payback, and
Yeah.
then we would drop it down. But obviously we'd revisit that. But because it does make a big difference in terms of, so you're 134, but then you're dropping down, but you're still going up then because
Right, because you got the
you're
other
taking
payments.
on other
Mhm.
loans.
Oh,
And so this is sort of best case scenario for this one.
Oh, God. I guess this other scenarios are not the
Correct.
best case scenarios.
And we're doing this because we want to be absolutely
Right.
clear of what this means.
Right.
And this is the sort of the big picture that we've never looked at before, even before we started to do these projects. We've never had this sort of breakdown. Part of it was because we didn't know the expenses and how large the system should be and what it should be consisting of.
Your hours up.
So, yeah.
Hey, we're so well ahead. I said I was ending at 10:30.
No,
I'm
but you
very
only had
excited
an
that it's
hour
only
for
9
this.
now.
So go to your end where you said so much each year, okay? I'm looking at that one that's in, I don't know what year it is, 123.47.
Yeah.
That's what I pay at our branches in Virgins and Middlebury.
Yes,
Not our big branch,
right.
not our main office.
Yeah, so we
So we're
start,
paying that 10 years, we've been paying that now.
yes. And
Um,
because we know
but
that
is there any growth in your first column for users? Like, I know we group.
no, so it's,
We're gonna have that in there a little bit.
yes, so this is our expenditures. There's no user increase. It's all based on current. Because we're not sure, we could add that in. We could definitely do it where it's
Better be
after
conservative.
every
than-
5 years, we add in, I don't know, X number of users and we start to divide that out. Because we'll definitely grow.
This is
but
just a conservative number though.
that's right.
I mean, even if you have 10 users, the actual impact on a $635,000 debt load.
Yeah.
It's that much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's still a
pretty
lot.
small.
So the average user, instead of being like $162 a month,
It's about a
probably
three or
would probably be about 160.
Yeah. Yeah, we played around, especially as you'll see in scenario 2, which is no forgiveness. And it's funny, even just taking out huge sums of money, because it's over 40 years and you're dividing it by the 977, it's not huge leaps, but by having no forgiveness, which you'll see, you're starting here at a much higher level. And as you start to hit your payback, you're just jumping a huge amount. So you're doubling or quadrupling your water fees very quickly. But I mean, so
But that's,
essentially,
that's possible.
no, I
$2,
know.
$2.
And
There's a
we're trying,
$17
obviously,
increase that
we don't
drops
want that. We're
$9.
trying incredibly hard not to have that. So part of the discussion that we're having now is we're really focused on this. We've run the scenarios with this, the math in terms of the state's sheet or Excel spreadsheet that they use to calculate this. This is what we're looking at. Potentially, we might be able to get 50% forgiveness, which drops us down a little bit more. As we get into this, one of the ideas and the concepts is to maybe supplement the loan with like a Northern Borders grant. And maybe it's 500,000, maybe we apply for $1 million. And so that offsets. And so instead of paying back like a $3 million, depending on the forgiveness level, you're maybe paying back 2 because you have this other loan. We don't want to do any loan with this because you're gonna
Screw up our
yes,
forgiveness.
you're gonna take us out of our forgiveness, and you start to add on the admin fee,
Right.
and then it's a much higher amount. Here, because we've already got so much debt from this, there's possibility we could look at supplement as well as Rockydale. So let's jump to, here we go. I know that's super small.
2A,
but
right?
it's- Yeah, so this is essentially the same thing, and this is 0% forgiveness and a 2% admin or interest
Oh,
rate.
shit.
So you can see, instead of 60,000, it's 178,000. And we times that by 3, and we're not 40 years now, we're 30 years. So that's another reason it's much higher. And so you can see, we start off pretty similar, but then as we hit our first payment, we're jumping by a heck of a lot. And as you can see, this
$50.
continues, So it's a huge difference.
Boy, am I glad I have a well.
Well, hopefully if we do well with scenario 1, then we're not going to have that huge jump. But this is I would say this is the worst case scenario if we didn't get any forgiveness for any of those loans or those projects. I ran a scenario 1B, which would be if we take Rockydale out of the equation. We know it's going to be an expensive project. Not that I want to put numbers on it, but the amount of people that it serves is far less. And it's not to say that those systems are working perfectly. They're still older water lines and they need to be replaced. But what we could do is, because we're taking on these 2 major projects at 8 million essentially for both west and east, we would maybe pause the Rockydale part of it. We could still run the feasibility study, so we'd have options in terms of what direction we might want to take. And maybe that's something where we pause and we revisit that in a few years. We start to build up the capital reserve fund, and maybe it's something where we don't switch to 50, we keep it at 100 to sort of build that up, and then we revisit that a few years down the line. So that's one of the discussions, and at least that gets you a little bit better in terms of your increases that you're going to see each year as we pay off this debt.
That's our oldest water line, because that's what brought the water
I
here.
know. And maybe the feasibility study reveals something to us that, and we've talked about this before.
Drilling wells.
Exactly. Right. Is that going to be, because also too, with changes that, this is over a number of years, we have no idea what the situation might be in terms of goods and materials and labor and all of that. We're entering into these big things, and there's a lot of unknowns with this. But this was one option that we discussed, was just to remove or pause the Rockydale side, to be able to help us get back to a place where we can save or look at other ways of financing it, things like that.
I thought we were required to have to replace all these lines. I thought the state required that. That's one of the biggest reasons we were doing this.
Well, they're gonna require, I think they're gonna require us, giving us the money, my opinion.
You can have that opinion.
No, they required us to close our landfill and they didn't want to give us any money.
We end up getting some.
So,
Not what
so
they
that, so that's
promised
where
us.
we're at. With these projects. And this is, we're looking at Bristol West. This doesn't include
School Street.
doesn't include School Street, which we've engineered, and we have a number for that, and it doesn't include the potential service line upgrades. Those are all 100% forgiveness. So that's sort of outside of this, even though it might be included in the project. Again, that adds a whole nother layer upon the already very complicated layers of this project. So Chris's head's about to
But
explode.
the service lines aren't really our responsibility.
No,
The
but
state's making them our responsibility
Yeah.
though.
If you start to start-
If we touch the
Curbs.
line, they have to be
Yeah.
changed.
but we want them to be changed. There's a lot that are unknowns that should be changed, and we
Getting
and-
people to pay for them if they don't have the money to pay for them, then.
Well,
you know.
the idea is that, talking to the state, it's 100% forgiveness. So we have this opportunity.
Until the money runs out.
No, I know.
And that's why we said maybe we do west and east all at the same time, hire a separate contractor to.
Yeah.
Do the service lines.
Yeah.
Service line back to an old curb stop that when we come by in a few years, we're gonna replace the curb stop back out to the main.
Correct.
I mean, look, it's not a tremendous amount. Jill, do you know off the top of your head, what the total amount for west and east, the service line replacements?
Well, we have to get easements for everybody, so that's an added cost. If you
Well,
want
how many users is it?
well, there's the unknowns, and then there's like the 75 that are galvanized and lead. So I don't know. Let's just call it 100, stating that
Okay.
maybe 30 of the unknowns could be. So if it's 100, I don't know, maybe 500,000, maybe less.
I was gonna say $500,000, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we already know that School Street is what, 90?
100.
Yeah.
100?
I don't feel like in a competitive bid it's that. I think in a you have to do this in the next 3 weeks, it's that. That seemed like a very high bid to me. But
I agree.
if I were to just look at like the cost of materials and 2 weeks of labor, those bids felt very high. They felt like it was like, oh, you want me to put you in my schedule this week? I'm gonna make some money.
Especially if it's part of a larger project.
That's what that felt like.
So like Jill and Steve, I know I've talked a lot, and have I explained this correctly to everyone? I want to make sure that I'm right.
Yeah, and part of my brain is like thinking in a little bit of a bigger picture. Is if we were to go backwards and look at the last 25 years of water rates, it'd be interesting to understand how much water rates have increased over the last 25 years and like what percentage that is, and then look at what they're proposed to increase over the next 25 years and what that percentage is. Just to sort of understand the how much.
I think it was
impact this
$100 a year was what we paid.
in
It was a
2000.
flat- It was a flat rate. It was.
When you first
100
started?
Yeah,
What was it, 100 a year?
yeah.
How long
So I
ago was
mean,
that?
if you
Well, that
start,
was probably 35 years ago. So, well, no, my daughter's gonna be 39, so it was 40 years ago.
And now I'm paying $400 a year.
so it's gone up 400% in 35 years.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at this, we're talking about it going up 200% in, what is it, 50 years?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be a jerk, but to me, it seems like, even though it seems like a ton of money and it makes me kind of want to throw up, I'm also trying to look at it as just like, if pay were to come up and if the dollar were to continue to have appropriate value, maybe this wouldn't feel so crappy.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go.
On a lighter note.
Yeah, glad I ended on a.
Well,
Right.
if we look at it like if 50 years from now's rate hit today, people would really, really be upset.
Yes.
It is over time. And it's like the other question is, okay, what if we just do nothing? And if I had to say, like, what's the worst thing that would happen is that the water lines eventually will fail. And prior to that, they're loading up with material. So the inside of the cast iron main are filling with minerals. So like inside of your 4-inch main is about a 2-inch opening on most of the 4-inch mains after these 120 something years. So will have very low water flows and eventually.
I'm thinking more on the 1-inch side. Not
Yeah,
even-
once they get down to 1 inch, if you continue to grow and, you know, everybody decides to take a shower at the same time, you may just have water flow issues if you do nothing for the next 50 days. If you're just like, let the next generation deal with it. Or then they say, let's just let the worst case scenario is just you end up with like very tiny interior water lines that have more work that needs to be done and a very low water flow.
Be like the people that I changed the water line for last week. They could do a load of laundry in the morning and their extra tank would fill up by night so that they could take a shower.
See, because they probably had just like the size of a pencil coming through their galvanized
Yeah.
line. That's what
No, it was a plastic line. I think what happened was when they replaced another one, it got squished.
Oh my.
But I mean, that's you are describing what it would be like for our life.
Yeah.
So.
And we don't have extra tanks, so you'd be standing there waiting for the water to go.
As it drips.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, the cost of doing nothing is really just that the water system itself will lose pressure, you know, lose volume, and eventually the generations later will just hate you. So I don't know. There's always going to be some hate, and then
We'll be dead.
the other piece that I don't think Ian mentioned, or I might have not heard, was that I would highly encourage, once we get past Bristol West, where there's no advantage to pairing with a grant, once we get into Bristol East and Rockydale, there's every advantage to pairing with a grant because the grant reduces the amount of debt. So if we could.
Right, Joe, but when we talked about this, we can talk about pairing it with a grant, but from a real-time budget, I wouldn't budget against a grant.
No, I'm not saying
costs are gonna be out.
Yeah, absolutely. You're budgeting for the full amount, but then hopefully you're getting the grant, which is offsetting.
And then you can mitigate some.
That's right, your loan payment. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit, so hopefully, I know that Steve, we had a discussion just sort of when I was putting these numbers together, not doing Rockydale was sort of proposed as that a potential. What are your thoughts on that? I haven't talked to you about that, and I apologize.
We definitely need to look at an alternatives analysis. I mean, replacing that down the mountain, replacing currently what's there would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
So we need to look at alternatives. We just haven't gotten there yet.
You say that, but what is it gonna cost to put the state road back to the state it's in? Especially if you hit boulders and stuff going down through there, which we know are there.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's boulders the size of trucks in there.
Yeah.
And I worry about.
Yeah, it's a good concern.
Road.
Yeah. And so I guess the feasibility study would give us hopefully all angles that we could maybe look at for that particular thing.
Yeah, I would imagine we'll have 3 or 4 or 5 things that we're gonna look at.
Okay. All righty. Anything else, Jill, Steve, that you want to say in regard to this before we wrap this up? We've talked a lot about this.
I would just say, are we at a point where we can submit this information to the bond bank and to the SRF program so that we can get the priority points and whatnot? Because these are related to requests from both.
Yes, that's why I sort of wanted to bring it up now, because there's nothing really to approve. It's just sort of updating those numbers to be able to submit. So I will connect with the both of you maybe tomorrow, and we can sort of just look through and make sure that it's what they need. But I think we have that now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you both.
Good
I really appreciate
night.
your help with this.
Night, Steve.
Okay.
Onward, select board roundtable, hey.
On the lighter note, yeah.
Go ahead, Ian.
Nothing from me.
Michelle.
Remember Saturday's green up day?
Yeah.
They're gonna have a table in the park on Saturday morning, right?
Yep.
But you can get the green bags before that from Sharon,
Yeah,
from
upstairs.
Sharon.
Upstairs.
Oh, they're upstairs and they're right
They've given that
on the
much.
front porch, okay. And I'll have to get you the name, but one of the lights is out on the west bridge.
Uh-oh.
He's like, oh, it's starting. But I have the guy's name that we have to email.
Okay.
but I can email him too, I just wanna let you know.
Sure.
That's it for me.
Jolie?
Couple of things, one I just wrote down here. When we're doing that, like that budget tonight, is it possible to get a paper copy? Because we can't read that, it's so tight.
The only issue I see with the paper copy, and it's happened to you a bunch of times, and you're like, those aren't the numbers I have. Because you've got, you don't have a current one. I guess if we got a paper copy, it would be handed out that night.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then I've been asked why I didn't support I voted no the other night on Briggs Hill. So I did some pondering that night, went home, pondered my thought. Then I called my
That was that smoke I smelled.
Yeah. And then, so I wanted to put all these numbers together. We had a number of somewhere between $2 and $2.5 million. It was all FEMA funded, and we were gonna pay probably up to 5% of that.
10%.
10%.
Yeah.
I thought it was 5.
Well, you're right. It was 10% was what, it was 90% FEMA was covered, and then there was
5%
potential to get 5%
5%
from
from
state,
state.
and then 5% we would have.
So I called the commercial loan guy at work, and I just said, what if the town, and I went back to what somebody said, well, what Eric had said, that, they didn't get their FEMA money for almost 2 years.
Right.
So I said, what would $2 million cost Bristol if we had to borrow it? He says it would cost you $1 million, would cost you $50,000 a year to keep. Or to, if you got your 2 million before that, so it'd be $100,000 a year to get $200 million. $2 million, $2 million. And just a food for thought, that's what you might want to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
He said about 4.5%. So that project up there in interest alone would have cost us about 200 to 2.5, 250,000.
Which is what we figured. We'd have 500 in it that we didn't have.
And then if you take the 2.5 million at 5%, that's another 125. We're looking at about 375, a little less than $400,000. And then the gentleman to my left here gave us numbers last year and then this year, and it's about that amount. But that wasn't FEMA designed and FEMA everything else, and I get where we were going with that.
I mean, you want that help, but then it's,
Just-
that you're
There's a
already,
cost.
yeah, there's a cost.
If we'd have just gone and done it, we'd been paid for it and been over.
Been done, when we do it, then just.
But I get
But the
it.
liability
I get
is
it.
ours too, so we
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah, the
careful.
liability is ours too, then
Yeah.
and then I read, you sent us an email that people were upset, or some of the comments some board members made about, well, there's only 8 or 9.
Right, it was equating just a number for a resident of Bristol, which
I had
is
some
which
other
is not
thoughts,
what we were intending.
But that's why I didn't have a clear number that night in my
Okay.
head, and I still
Sure.
think I don't think we should have given away FEMA money quite so easy.
Okay.
That's
I'm
what
not
I
sure
want.
it was easy, but.
Yeah, no, I know, you guys.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's
part of-
all I wanted to say
Yeah,
about that.
to address that in terms of the resident that was upset, and I've emailed with them. The idea is, we're not thinking about residents in that way, but there is a financial breakdown that you have to do with every project. And it's not that we're not thinking about this stuff, it's just part of it, especially with projects that have huge dollar numbers attached to them. And that is divided amongst the entire tax base. And so it's just one of those things. And it just, some projects, impact a greater number of people than others. And so it's, you try to balance that out and you try to get as much money as you can through grants or through FEMA or whatever to be able to offset that. I mean, if you don't have that, we wouldn't be able to do anything.
No,
It'd just be too expensive to do any project.
Just like our discussion about Rockydale.
Yes, right.
Similar.
I know. It just happens to be a very complicated thing where we're going. So, yeah.
All right.
But that's great. I appreciate you looking at the numbers, but I mean, it helps us too to sort of figure out, you're right, we're
So
not
now
even
every
thinking
$1 million
about
you
another.
borrow a year to
Right,
keep it for a year, you don't pay it back, it's gonna cost you $50,000.
right, I know.
Wonderful. Anything else?
I know, that's it.
I'm good. interim administrators report.
I've gone through a lot of the stuff that we talked about. I've been working on water things. We're starting the Harvey Road study, which is the bridge. We're gonna meet on the May 1st, go talk about that. AZ's involved. Same AZ's involved also with the Airport Drive sidewalk. That's coming along. I put out an RFP for the Mountain Street drainage because we still do have that brick grant. We've had a few people ask, do you still have that brick grant? And according to the state, we do, and it's still gonna be covered. And so the deadline of that is in a couple days. Hopefully we'll get some people apply for that. And we've also been doing the town administrator interviews, interviewed a couple of people, and we'll talk about that in executive session.
And it did work. Meadow Lane looks nice. They got the trees down, you've got the stump all pulled up out there. That looks good.
I got an emergency call. What are you doing?
Are they gonna pave that this year? Or
They already did.
No, they just paved that.
Yeah,
Are
I
they
don't
paving the
know.
whole street or
I don't
where? If
know.
they're gonna give
I
it a
don't
year
know
to
what
settle?
I don't know what his plans are.
Come on.
Other business?
No,
Nada?
nothing on.
Correspondence, reports,
No,
executive session?
yes.
I have a question first.
Sure.
Are we gonna reschedule the 4th meeting in May since it's Memorial Day?
That would be up to you. If, not you, but I mean, the collective.
I'm like, are you talking about Sharon or you're
No.
talking about us?
Sharon, make that decision. Every year we have this discussion and we sort of, I think we've generally done it, but I always want to talk to the staff.
Well, it depends on, sometimes they change it, sometimes.
I
they
know.
don't.
What are the board's feelings on that?
I mean, the only thing is that it's a scheduled day off for them, and if we want them here, they have to come in.
Right.
And
They don't
I
have to
mean-
come in. We can just meet without them.
That's true. Or they can also meet via Zoom. But it
But
would be,
since you're gonna be doing the water budget, and that'll probably be like the second meeting,
yeah.
I guess we're here.
I mean, you know,
27th?
Yeah.
We can do it the 27th, Tuesday the 27th.
Move it to a Tuesday. Let's see what else is happening.
27th is potentially.
Usually DRB, isn't it DRB or?
Oh, sorry.
I know, it is a hard one to move because there are a heck of a lot of committees and commissions that meet for the town.
And we have to have 2 meetings, right, for the water.
Yes. Yeah, Equity Committee says it's on the Wednesday. I don't know about DRB. I don't have it down here, but that.
Well, DRB will only meet if they have something going on.
Yes. And I guess if we plan that, then potentially.
I mean, if you told AZ tomorrow that you needed that date,
Yeah.
they could arrange any
Yeah.
meetings they had,
That's
actually
right.
at this
Okay.
point, they could move.
Yeah,
So we want to change it to
27th.
Tuesday the 27th?
does that sound?
That fit your
Okay.
schedule, Jim?
I don't have anything on mine.
Okay. That fits Jim's
I'm
schedule.
glad you checked with Jim. That's good.
It's May, right?
Yeah.
Yes, May 27th. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you for reminding me about that, Sharon.
and are we gonna have to, as far as the water and sewer budget, since we're gonna move it to when we do the other budgets, is there anything that we know of that we have to change? And I don't know when or what established the annual meeting. for
No,
water and sewer.
I looked at the documents. There's nothing that I could find that.
Says we can't do.
Correct.
Okay.
I think it was just something that when it was established, it was offset from the regular budgeting.
Okay.
And the idea now would be to hopefully synchronize it, just to make it simpler for all of us, as opposed to us
Yeah, so
approving a budget. in
we're not
June.
doing budget.
Yes.
We get
Yeah.
done budget and then do budget.
I know, yeah, but as far as I researched, looking at the original, the water district establishment, there's nothing in there that specifies that it had to be on those days, but it's a good thing to check that. All right, so let me just make sure this is moved, so that May 26th, we're gonna move. I'm gonna move this one. Let's just make sure, so let me just edit this, just so I know. Let's go like that. Darn it. All right.
Down country guy.
Okay. Yeah, so the 27th at 7 p.m.
Executive session for
Yes.
personnel and contract.
Yes, I make a motion, we enter into executive session per one BSA section 313 to discuss personnel and contract
And
matters.
invite Chris and Sharon.
Invite Chris and Sharon to attend. Good night, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Drive safe.
Right, Jimmy.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We are in executive session.
Okay, so I will stop this.
Stop recording, stop the
Well, I can stop this.